GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From wherever we decide studios, broadcasted live on iTunes, Spreaker, and worldwide, this is the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast with your host, the producer, Pat G. The G stands for Gangsta. And now kick back and get ready for the eargasms.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the TTRP Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast. Pat G, the G stands for Gorgonite Scum, and Sergeant Fury, of course, bringing all the news, notes, and opinions of the latest wrestling world from WWE, TNA, ROH, hopefully soon again, Impact, New Japan, and much, much more around the world. Congratulations to Daniel Garcia for winning BOLA 2022. He's now going to he is done on the independents. He's focusing all his time and efforts toward AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling via his Twitter within the last week and a half, 2 weeks. I think I saw him tweet that. So big congrats to him. And yeah, the Royal Rumble, lots of things happened.
Were we right on our predictions when we were talking with Mr. Brewington and his gang last week? I think both you and I, Pat G, we hit some good ones. We had a winning percentage. We had winning percentages.
Our
winning percentage was about as high as Matt Riddle. And
absolutely.
Our winning chances were as good as Shane O'Mac. So I'd like to go on record and say the Ronda Rousey prediction, had it. Let's get on that one.
Yes. So lots of things happened at the Royal Rumble. Of course, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns with the massive mind games by Seth Rollins.
But coming out in the Shield gear and the
coming out with the Shield gear and the theme, and then doing what a lot of people thought impossible. Seth Rollins essentially turning face.
The work of Seth Rollins as this over-the-top Seth freaking Rollins version of himself was extremely grating and extremely obnoxious. But then with this recent run with Roman Reigns, try saying that 5 times fast, he was able to undress Roman Reigns verbally in a way, and talk down to him and diminish his stature, where you were really glad because Roman Reigns has had 10-minute promo sessions, and the people that they send out to go against him on the mic are not on par. No. Seth Rollins happens to be the one guy who, for one, is way on par. And out of that Shield triad that was there for all those years, he was the most successful as far as championship runs, as far as events won, and as far as being put with super top tier talent to help elevate him. Seth Rollins was that guy. So if you want to look at what they did leading up to it was perfect. What'd you think of that goddamn match, though?
The match itself, I will put on par to Reigns versus Cena, where Cena made Reigns work for it. Rollins made Reigns work for it. And what Rollins was able to do is Rollins gave Reigns another layer to the tribal cheat, because This time, Roman Reigns did it by himself. There was no interference. There was no like nefarious tactics by the Usos. It was Reigns versus Rollins straight up one-on-one. And yes, a lot of people are pissed off at the end of the match and the DQ finish. To be completely honest, it makes Roman Reigns that much more of a heel. Plus, on top of that, it gives you that little bit of an opening that, hey, Roman Reigns had to get himself disqualified to ensure victory. So down the road, especially with the rumors floating, and we'll get more into that after talking about the other events of the night. It gives validation to Rollins, who now is going to take I don't think Rollins is going to turn full face. I think Rollins is going to slide into that Randy Orton world, like that in between, where he can go either way, because we're going to get into it more. Is Rollins can slide in that in between phase now and keep up the Seth frickin' Rollins over the top dynamic while challenging whoever. But on top of it gives Rollins the momentum and everything down the road, going, hey, yes, you might have beat me, but you had to get disqualified to beat me. You haven't beaten me clean 1, 2, 3, which builds to another match.
And the other thing that it does like perfectly is there are already people who are sighing at the fact that, oh my God, we're going to get another Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar main event match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar lost his match against Bobby Lashley.
And the thing
there was storytelling continued with the Roman Reigns Paul Heyman thing.
Yeah, there was that, and it was. Listen, and I know a lot of wrestling fans maintain that Bobby Heenan is the greatest manager of all time, and as a wrestling manager, sure, I'll give you that every day of the week. But as a person that has seen that has been the man behind some of the most dynamic people in the business, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stunning Steve Austin, WCW, CM Punk, the
Callis.
Yeah, like Brock Lesnar, his time with Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman is number one. Paul Heyman is the greatest of all time as far as someone that is in the corner of someone.
Of champions.
Yeah.
Of straight up champions. He's the champion's manager.
Yep, because the thing is, Bobby Heenan, I'm not gonna say Bobby Heenan was not the greatest manager of all time, but Bobby Heenan only got his guys up to a certain point, with probably Rick Rude, most likely Rick Rude being the highest one with the IC title.
I would go. Actually, you got Ric Flair.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair. He was not a manager. I think he was a consultant.
Yeah,
he was because
it was like this weird consultant role with Flair and Kurt Hennig, because Flair had always had a special spot for Kurt Hennig, and thought Hennig could be the next guy in line to follow his legacy, just because of in-work rate and charisma and everything. But as far as like a manager or leader of champions, Paul Heyman hands down.
And they continued that story. And wouldn't it be cool? And I know that, like, you know, we're talking about the 2 titles. We haven't talked about the other 2 titles yet.
And the interesting thing is with Paul Heyman turning and going back to Roman,
mm-hmm.
I kind of saw it coming. Like, I had a feeling it was going to happen, because if you haven't noticed, this is the first time Brock Lesnar has ever been a true face.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time that Brock Lesnar has ever really been on the mic majority of the time. Brock Lesnar's heart is in this. Brock Lesnar is having fun.
Brock Lesnar called Bobby Lashley a chicken shit on Monday Night Raw.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And mind you, Brock Lesnar, here's the other thing that you have to remember about this this pay-per-view and the resulting Raw after it. Brock Lesnar came down to the ring in ring gear on Monday Night Raw.
Yep.
He did not come down to talk. He came down in ring gear. He rarely does that. That was a shocking thing that character did. Granted, he was announcing the fact that he's going to be an Elimination Chamber in Saudi, and he wants to make this a champion versus champion thing. But what coolness would it be if what ended up being only like a 3-minute main event at WrestleMania 31 with Roman, Seth, and Brock became a triple threat at Mania for night 2? Because we kind of know what night 1's main event might end up being.
Yeah,
after the women's Royal Rumble match.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, with like Brock losing the WWE title to Bobby Lashley, which is perfectly fine. Storytelling, him saying that he's going to go on versus Roman, and then of course him stating that he's going to be in the Elimination Chamber match, which now leads to the various reports and rumors that the WWE wants to unify the titles into one belt, which there's 2 sides of this. Is, all right, the unification of your 2 main titles. Great, awesome, cool. You have one belt. On the one side, great, you now have the ultimate prize, okay? But on the flip side of that, now you have less opportunity for guys to carry a heavyweight championship, like a Big E, like a Kevin Owens, like a Seth Rollins, like a Randy Orton. You have less opportunity, or a Matt Riddle, or someone that you want to build up, because in that dynamic, if you only have one heavyweight championship, which is the WWE championship, I'm sorry, I will say this, the WWE needs to kill the universe terms. End of day. It's dumb. It's stupid. It needs to end. They've done it long enough. It's just the thing of, you have the WWE championship, heavyweight championship, whatever you want to call it. The universal title, you need to get rid of. Kill the WWE universe term. It needs to end. There's no point of it anymore. Now you have one title for a ton of people, but your secondary titles, which is the Intercontinental Championship and the U.S. Championship, have been so diminished in their standings that they're no longer seen as secondary titles. They're seen as titles that can be in the mid card, but they're no longer your secondary titles, to where your champions are kind of the next in line, similar to the days of the 80s and 90s when those belts had those roles. But then,
and the worst part about it is in doing so, you're creating less opportunity for guys to have major matches. And you're also having to juggle 2 major networks. You're having to juggle, USA Network and NBC Universal, and you're having to juggle Fox Sports with SmackDown. And if I were Fox executives, or if I were NBC executives, I'd be like, why are we sharing our belt with the other network? We want the champion on our network. We want our champion, which for all the knocks on the TBS title and the TNT title, at least you know the exclusivity of that belt being represented on that specific network.
Yeah.
With Fox and SmackDown, they got the blue belt. Okay. Raw has got the black belt. Okay, there you go. It sells itself, really, if you think about it. I mean, granted, I'm with you where I'd rather see WWE champion and WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I'd rather see the big gold back. But the thing that gets me is you absolutely hit the nail on the head. You got guys like, do you think Big E's going to get another title run if there's only one belt? Fuck no. Riddle? I mean, you got someone like Brock who's gone on record, been like, I'm never working with that guy.
Yeah.
And so what happens with a guy like Riddle?
Before we get into it, you had Shane McMahon win a goddamn fist fight. Shane McMahon won a fist fight versus Matt Riddle. Granted, yes, it was hot, but come on.
We have to talk about
make it make sense, okay? And yes, okay, cool. Shane McMahon returned to the Rumble. Like, had Shane McMahon come out during the Johnny Knoxville jackass nonsense, it would have been fine. No, Shane McMahon came out number 27, won a fist fight against Matt Riddle, former UFC fighter, eliminated Kevin Owens, who has been built as a threat over the last month and a half in a partnership with Seth Rollins. You had him, and then whatever else happened, fine. Then he got eliminated. Cool. Whatever. There was something along the lines with Bad Bunny. I don't know what it was. I haven't looked into it. I just know his name was thrown in there. But the fact that you had guys on the sidelines, Cesaro, there was talks about
Balor.
Balor. There were talks about Braun Breaker and Walter, aka Gunther, in attendance. Like, you know what? I was cool with the Johnny Knoxville thing because honestly,
they're building something with Sami Zayn at Mania.
Because it's building to something with Sami Zayn, and it's most likely going to lead to a match at WrestleMania, Knoxville versus Sami Zayn, some kind of celebrity thing like they've done in the past with Shaq and Floyd Mayweather, which will be cool. It'll give Sami Zayn something which is fun. And
Sami Zayn and with Sami Zayn, not to cut you off, having re-signed a contract recently, you have to remember Sami Zayn had Logan Paul in his corner last WrestleMania with the conspiracy theory thing. Now you're taking it to a next level. Sami Zayn's finally got a character that people actually like to watch. And if it's him doing spots with celebrities, then guess what? That's television time. But to go back to your thing,
there's the video of Knoxville, Sami Zayn invading the Jackass premiere.
Yeah, it was on MSNBC News. Like it was talked about. But no, like the way that the Rumble. Do you think that this was one of the worst Rumbles in history?
I don't think it was one of the worst Rumbles in history. I think it was poorly executed.
Okay.
Because the thing is in past years, the Royal Rumbles usually had like the main storyline, and then it's had like one or two, maybe three or four minor storylines
that are going to build to a Mania match.
To build to a possible Mania match. Okay.
Yeah.
Over the last few weeks, with the men's Royal Rumble match specifically, you've had teases of Rey Mysterio versus Dominic. They were never in the ring at the same time. You've had teases of Austin Theory being becoming a bigger name. You've had various other storyline like interactions and everything. I don't think it was a battle Royal Rumble for the men's side of things. I think it was just poorly executed and poorly planned, which I think is a factor as to why the release of Shane McMahon from the contract, from the talent contract that he had. Let's be honest. He did not get fired. He got fired from being a contracted talent. He still has ownership in the company. That's not been taken. He was fired from being a contracted talent. So
which is different because even Triple H had two contracts. Triple H had the office contract, and then he had the talent contract.
The talent contract. And then of course, and right now the reason that Triple H has been out is because he's dealing with heart issues, man. Like people, I like not to sidetrack or anything, but like I love people are going, oh, Triple H is in the doghouse. No, Triple H freaking had a goddamn heart attack.
Triple H had a heart attack, and who knows what needed to be done. And it's like, dude, the man had a heart attack.
He had a heart attack. He's had issues with his heart over the last 6 to 8 months. That's the reason he's no longer in charge of NXT. And then on top of that, it wasn't because he lost the Wednesday Night War or whatever. It was Vince McMahon and the powers that be in WWE got to a point and said, we need to stop relying on talent that made their names elsewhere that are becoming bigger than our main two brands. Because to be honest, let's be real, NXT was getting up there in that 4-year run of Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano and Ciampa and the Undisputed Era, Pete Dunne and everything. It was getting there. It was not being looked as the developmental brand. It was, this is on par with SmackDown and Raw, maybe a little bit better. So Vince kind of was like, no, pull it back. We need to make this what it was. And cool, you're developing talent. There's some talent down there that is great. Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker, but you're also keeping your veteran hands in Ciampa and Dunn and Walt and Gunther. You're keeping your veteran hands down there. It's just the Royal Rumble is your second major event behind WrestleMania. This is where you start. And yeah, cool. The Elimination Chamber is in Saudi Arabia. Okay, great. Have fun with that. I don't care. Am I going to watch the show? Probably I'll watch it and highlight clips and stuff. But I'm not going to sit here and watch it. I haven't watched the actual Saudi Arabia show, and I never will. Just because I don't support it. But it's the thing of it was very, very badly planned. And then when you did have the storyline telling from the Brock Lesnar Bobby Lashley match, and Lesnar lost the title. Come on, the only people that I would to honestly believe, if somebody looked at me and go, "Oh, we had no idea Brock was going to be number 30." The only people that I would believe legitimately didn't know is anybody under the age of 16.
Yeah, because Brock losing the way he lost was like, all right, well, he's going into the Rumble.
Like we knew
he's going to win it.
Like the minute he lost it, the way that he lost it, it was like, all right, Brock's in the Rumble. It's just a matter of when he's in the Rumble. And I had a feeling that he was gonna be 30. He was like, I had a feel like I was hoping they were gonna pull the Rey Mysterio gimmick back from a couple years ago when everybody wanted Daniel Bryan to be number 30 and it was Rey Mysterio. And they booed hard. Like I was hoping it was going to be like a bait and switch type deal, but it wasn't. And Lesnar winning the Rumble, I don't care. It's storyline because in a sense it makes sense in the storyline because that's the only way that Lesnar's going to get a chance at Roman.
You know, they could have changed that. Like they could have done a Matt Riddle situation.
Oh yeah.
Right. They could have done a Matt Riddle because that was initial reports and all this shit saying Riddle was going to be the guy.
Like it was Riddle was booked to win it because Riddle's got that MMA background. He's an over character. Randy Orton has spent the last year building that kid up to make him a star. Which now with him, he is going to be involved in the Elimination Chamber match.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, we all know what's going to happen. Lesnar's going to win the title. Like,
yeah,
it's what I would love to see. What I would love to see is it come down to Riddle and Lesnar. And I know, and like we've stated, yes, Lesnar said he has no desire to work with Matt Riddle. Maybe that's changed because Matt Riddle has done so much over the last year and a half, especially under the tutelage of Randy Orton, that maybe that's changed. And maybe the last 5 to 10 minutes of the Elimination Chamber, it's down to Lesnar versus Riddle, and they can make it that a story, and that it goes to, and it now gives another layer to Riddle, who most likely is going to have Orton as his opponent at Mania.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who are like, we can't wait for Randy Orton to turn, and it's like, well, what if it's Riddle who turns? I would have loved to have seen this turn into Riddle versus Orton for the title. I think that would be a natural, fit. They could have shoehorned Lesnar in there against Roman somehow.
Oh yeah.
I also think that now we can say Bobby Lashley, 2-time WWE champion.
Very true.
Which is a huge thing. He is now a 2-time WWE champion, having beaten Drew.
Yep.
And having beaten Brock Lesnar, who are 2 huge draws. Like Bobby Lashley can now be if he wasn't already, can now be considered a legitimate champion in WWE,
absolutely.
in WWE lore. I mean, and you have to look at the Women's Royal Rumble and the results of that, where you had a lot of talent in that Rumble laying claim to the point where we all thought we were going to see Lita win the Royal Rumble to go against either Charlotte or Becky.
Yeah,
that's not how it turned out, but
no. And the thing, and what is, so the interesting thing with the Women's Royal Rumble is it shows you the lack of depth that the WWE has as far as women talent
now.
Especially with all the releases and everything over the last 2 years. And what's funny is after the Rumble, there were 2 major reports that came out. One, WWE contacted Nia Jax and asked her if she had interest in the Rumble. Nia Jax basically told them to fuck off because they fired her. They essentially fired her for not wanting to get vaccinated, which, okay, your choice, cool, whatever. And the second one we'll bring up in a minute. But so the depth issue, okay? You've lost Ember Moon, you've lost Toni Storm. There's been numerous others that have been let go. So in this thing, you had Sasha Banks, Melina, legend. Kelly, former legend. What? And I'm going to use the term legend because that's what WWE does. So if you hate it, fight.
I would call Kelly. If we can refer to Stacy Keibler as a legend,
yeah,
at least Kelly held the Divas title. So sure. Kelly, former WWE He was champion legend.
You had Michelle McCool was there. You had
legend.
Cameron, not legend. I don't know why Cameron was there, but cool. She had it was a little niche in the side because she had been wrestling in Independence and had the reunion with Naomi. Cool, that's great, awesome. You had Ivory. I love the aspects of Ivory and Molly Holly because last year they were themselves, and this year they were their secondary gimmicks, Mighty Molly and then Ivory from Right to Censor, which was fantastic. If you can have legends do that, awesome, great. Of course, you had the Bella Twins, which perfectly fine with. Super happy for Nikki being able to be cleared and return to the ring in Scum's capacity. Hey, y'all, we are going to take a short break from the show real quick just to pay some bills. Please do us a favor. If you like what you hear, like what you see, please drop a subscription or follow to gearnetwork.com as well as the TTRP Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. That way you get notified when we have new episodes go up via your podcast services. Thank you. And now back to the show. And the Bellas worked fine because they were themselves solo, but they played it as what they were when they first started. They had very similar haircuts. They worked together. And they did the Bella Twin gimmick, which I'm perfectly fine with. You had Sarah Logan come back, and congrats to her. And granted, it didn't happen in the ring, but you had the emotional reunion with Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan.
Yep.
You had Lita, and then of course the return of Ronda Rousey, which you for a moment you had that mini reunion with Shayna Baszler, which was great. Mm-hmm. But come on, the minute Ronda's music hit, you knew who was winning. Like at that point, I was like, okay. At that point, I didn't guarantee that Ronda was going to win it. At that point, I'm like, okay, your final four are going to be Lita, Rousey, Shayna, Charlotte. That's going to be where you. That's going to be where you go, and that's where you're going to be worked. Lita got eliminated by Charlotte, which is fine, great, awesome, cool. It builds that angle. Ronda winning, cool. Now she has the one-on-one match with Becky Lynch because the story is already there.
Yep. Then
you fast forward to Monday Night Raw, and WWE, in their infinite wisdom's going, hey, I know we laid the seeds for all these things. Yeah, throw this out. Now you have Lita challenging Becky. Ronda's going to announce who she wants to face on SmackDown, which, to be honest, it's going to go the money matchup, and it's going to the money as much as the money matchup is Becky versus Ronda. Charlotte Flair has never changed her gimmick. Charlotte Flair is Charlotte Flair. She's the queen.
Mm-hmm.
For me, my personal opinion, for Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch to work, Becky Lynch has to be the man. It's not big time backs. Like the big time backs works with Lita because Lita's the legend, and maybe it's where maybe Lita beats Becky Lynch or whatever, wins the title, have a little bit of run, and that's the trigger to return the Becky Lynch to the man. And I know there's the behind closed doors legal stuff because Ric Flair claims he copyrighted the term, but WWE's like, no, you didn't, and whatever. Fine, whatever. But on paper, yes, Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch is a money match. But Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair is a money match, especially with the way Charlotte Flair has been built over the last 6 months.
So let me throw this at you, because they already threw away the Lita Becky Lynch match for Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So why do it? What if Bayley is going to be big time Becky's opponent at WrestleMania?
I'm perfectly fine with that, because Bayley is, because this is the thing. You've seen Bayley versus Charlotte. You've seen Bayley versus Sasha. You've never seen Bayley versus Becky. Yes, Bayley and Becky fought in NXT, but they have never fought on the main roster in the characters that they have built up to this point.
And she is the super Karen.
Oh, absolutely.
And or Asuka.
Yeah.
I mean, but Becky Lynch to me I think Bayley versus Becky Lynch is bigger because, and take this for grain of salt, whatever people want to say, Bayley was a co-host last year and she did her job to perfection. But here's the thought going through my head. Follow me on this one. If you're too scared with Rhea Ripley to pull the trigger on her and make her a main eventer, even though she could be bigger than China, okay?
Oh, absolutely.
If Bianca Belair's shine has rubbed off and Vince doesn't want to play with that toy anymore, and you need to go to the old reliable is Becky Lynch versus Bayley, 2 out of the 4 horsewomen.
Yep.
And then you put Sasha in a Legends match with Lita.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And you get all 4 horsewomen on the card. You get Ronda Rousey on the card. You still have the women's battle royal for WrestleMania weekend.
Which at that point, if you really want to, you have Shayna Baszler win it and challenge. And if you really want Ronda to win a title, regardless, and you know what? Congrats to Ronda Rousey giving birth and all that back in September,
4 months ago.
Yeah.
4 months
and whatnot, which is fantastic. If you really want, and Ronda, and you have Ronda win the title, fine. You have Shayna win the battle royal, and you have Shayna challenge Ronda, because you know what? That's a storyline in itself. 2 former MMA greats now fighting for a title in pro wrestling.
Yeah,
and you have the best friends aspect.
Yeah, and I hate to say what I'm about to say. Please don't mistake it as being like sexist as fuck or anything, ladies and gentlemen. I don't need that shit. But Ronda popped out a kid 4 months ago. She's 4 months postpartum.
Yep.
Okay. She was breastfeeding while getting her fucking makeup and shit put on. Okay. She goes out there in what some are saying the most unflattering of ring gear, because essentially it was black jeans and a mom onesie that said baddest across the chest.
Yeah, which,
and like
one
a cut-up sweater.
One of the girls that I follow via Twitter, Cleveland Indians fan, she related to the outfit that Ronda had on, because Ronda gave birth like a day after she did. So she's like, I've never felt like more relatable to someone wearing clothes right now.
Versus Becky Lynch, who was gone for a full year and a half.
Yep.
And spent every waking moment getting CrossFit, like super jacked.
Yep.
When she came back. It's like Ronda had a shorter turnaround time, came back at the best possible way. In fact, she even said it in her Instagram. Yep. Like, once I gave birth and looked at the calendar, I was like, this might be doable. And it's like, if that's your thought process, is to pop out a kid because that's what you left WWE for,
and beat your body into the ground to get it in the best physical shape that it can possibly be in to return to wrestling, then
and
mad respect.
pregnancy gave Ronda Rousey a booty. I don't know if you saw the picture she posted.
Yeah.
Pregnancy gave Ronda, and she was like mom bod, and I'm like, good for you.
Like, good for you.
Good for you. Good for you. But it's like it also, like you said, it adds a different dimension because you have this badass mom that's going out there, and like when Ronda's music hit and you saw Ronda walk down the aisle, the fans popped.
Yep.
But you saw the look of the sell job by all of the women in the ring, like,
oh, absolutely.
Oh shit,
we're like,
she's here, and it's like that. And Charlotte was just like all fangs out and everything. And it's like, okay, so let's have this match. Let's just get it all on the table. I don't think it was the worst Royal Rumble of all time.
No.
Okay. I think that there were different things that could have been done that maybe made it a little better. I don't think it was the worst one. I don't think it was a Royal Rumble that you can say was a disappointment. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
The 2011 Royal Rumble, all in all, was just kind of like a flat Royal Rumble. Like it had no air into it. You kind of already saw the writing on the wall as far as where everything was going. But it definitely didn't have the luster, in my opinion, because, like you said, once Roman and Paul cost Brock the title, it's like, okay, I can go to bed and go to sleep. I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and the thing is even with the It couple versus the Grit couple match, like that was just all storytelling. Like that, was it a good match? Sure, great. It was good for what it was, but it was all storytelling because Edge at this point isn't trying to make a run at a title. Edge and Beth Phoenix are like, hey, we want to show our kids what we're good at.
Yeah.
And Edge wants to work with people that he can work with that he didn't have an opportunity to work with because of the early retirement.
And The Miz is so good. Yeah, he was away for 9 years, and in that 9 years, The Miz became such a great character.
Yep.
And you have to look at Maurice, because Maurice and Beth Phoenix faced each other and worked together in their time during the Divas era of women's wrestling. But then you look at Maurice was never looked at as a wrestler. Beth Phoenix was a women's wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay. Maurice was a diva that flipped her hair. To a lot of people, that was her. She went out there and actually wrestled. So, in my mind, it was as important for The Miz and Maurice to go out there and show their kids. But also, I think with Maurice, there was a little bit more pressure on her shoulders because like she was a diva. She was a diva search contestant.
Yeah.
She was that dirty era of wrestling that we don't like to talk about, where you didn't have to have any wrestling skills to become a Divas champion. You just
it was the Diva search, and then she had she had the early storylines where she was kind of like used as a eye candy type deal and everything. And she also her main title run from 2008 to 2010 at that time, that wasn't so much like the reign of Beth Phoenix. Like Beth kind of stepped it back at that point.
Was she doing Divas of Doom? She wasn't doing Divas of Doom at that.
I don't think she.
Natalie showed up.
But you had the Kelly Kellys and Mickey James and Candice Michelle and Michelle McCool and the Bellas were
Layla
and Eve Torres and and that when Maurice was running, she didn't Beth Phoenix wasn't was there, but she wasn't the focus.
Yeah.
And then Beth Phoenix left, kids, whatever. Maurice left, kids, whatever. And that it was, if you follow Miz and Maurice on social media, I'm telling you now, I think the older daughter, Madison, she's gonna end up being a wrestler. Her interactions in the rings with Morrison are phenomenal. It was two sets of parents showing their kids what they could do in the ring with storytelling, and it was good for what it was. But it's the thing of is Miz when Miz says he's the most see superstar, he is, because he's everywhere.
Yeah.
Miz has essentially taken the John Cena role, where when John Cena was at his height, John Cena was everywhere. TV, movies, commercials. Miz is now that.
And it's one thing that let's also mention this. Miz is one of the only superstars that I can think of that has never had any other than the boys etiquette story that we've all heard about. That do you hear that he's gotten in any scandals?
No.
Do you hear that he's gotten in altercations with people in public?
Nope. Not to mention the man has only been really injured one time majorly in 10 plus years.
Yeah. So you look at it, Miz has done a real good job of representing the company.
Oh yeah.
Okay. He is a family guy, beautiful wife, beautiful kids, beautiful houses. He, like you said, you gave his resume, but more importantly than that, he is someone that you're able to communicate with. He's able to do the media. He's able to do these side projects, these side missions for WWE, and then come back. And that's extremely valuable with that company, because he can be a media ambassador for years because everyone knows The Miz because he's awesome. And the other thing that I have to look at is he really is a blueprint for anyone who's man, I got a short end of the stick. I can't achieve anything. It's let's be honest, Miz still has a WrestleMania victory for John Cena.
Yep.
During John Cena's heyday.
Yep.
Small group of people can say they beat John Cena at WrestleMania.
Yeah. That's
actually, hold on. 20, 21, 22, 23. He lost at 24. 25, 26. He lost at 27. Okay. He lost at 28. 129, 30, 31. Yeah, actually, he's got 2 WrestleMania losses. 3. Undertaker. That was a quickie. Look at that, though. Oh, Bray Wyatt, 4. But point is that his win-loss record at WrestleMania pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, he is 10-5. 15 total appearances. So let's see. Does they I don't know.
The Fiend, Undertaker.
Here we go. All right. So he lost to the Undertaker.
Yep.
Beat Big Show at 20.
Yep.
Beat Miz and Maurice at 33 because that was the proposal.
Yep.
JBL,
so that was a loss. Beat JBL.
That was a loss. JBL 21. Miz at 27, which he lost.
Yep.
Bray Wyatt at 30.
The Fiend at the 2-night WrestleMania in Tampa.
Yep. At
WrestleMania 2020, he lost. That was a loss.
Edge and Big Show at Mania 25. Orton, Triple H at 24.
He lost that one because Orton won that one.
Yep. Rusev at 31.
He won that one.
Batista at 26.
Yep.
Rock at 29.
Yeah, he lost. No, he won 29. He lost at 28.
Yeah. Triple
And
H.
he lost at 27 to Miz.
Triple H at 22.
Yeah, won that one.
Rock 28. And then Michaels 23.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, like, man, Miz is doing a real fine job of, like you said, picking up that media slack. So
yeah,
you can almost guarantee he's going to do something big at WrestleMania this year, because following up the Bad Bunny performance last year, the match of the year was Bad Bunny.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what is, when Bad Bunny came out for the Rumble, I wasn't mad at it because of all the stories you heard from Mania. He's like, yo, he went through the training. He took it seriously. He wasn't there just to be just for the celebrity paycheck. He was there because he's a legit fan and he wanted to be taught and learn. And he had a hell of a match.
He had arguably the best match of the night.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Arguably.
Yeah. And the interesting thing with the Rumble is, yes, there's people talking about it was bad and this and that and predictable and so on and so forth, which, you know what, that's kind of been WWE's thing over the last couple of years. WWE has been very predictable, and unfortunately, in that predictability has also come with criticism. And one of the major criticisms they're facing right now is with Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy was released a little ways back, and it came out that WWE believed he was using substances. So they released him because the incident, there was an incident at a house show, so it ended up being his release. Well, truth be told, Jeff Hardy is completely clean. The drug test that was administered to Jeff Hardy, which took 6 weeks to come back, came back completely negative. Jeff Hardy completely clean, not on anything. And then
just did not like the direction.
Yep, didn't like the direction. John Laurinaitis contacted Jeff Hardy, offered him a spot in the Royal Rumble as well as Hall of Fame for 2022, and Jeff Hardy's like, "Nah, fam, y'all didn't want to believe me."
Yep.
And then this also leads to the story of WWE knows that Jeff Hardy is the one guy they did not want to have let go, because Jeff Hardy can reunite with his brother and it can reinvigorate the Hardy Boys in AEW with a plethora of tag teams to work with.
And the funny part about it is that the Hardys are going to be in March in Poughkeepsie for NEW.
Yep.
The first time the Hardys have been together in like 5 years as far as tag team capacity. Awesome. Is that them fine tuning so that they can make a run in AEW? Potentially. I mean, the tag team division there is ripe with opportunity. You know, you got FTR, you've got LAX, you've got, of course, you have
FTR,
Penta.
you have Lucha Brothers, you have Jurassic Express, you have Butcher and the Blade, you have Private Party, you have
House of Black.
Yeah, you have the House of Black, you have Red Dragon, you have the Young Bucks.
Yep. So there's opportunity there, and of course the nostalgia effect of the Hardy Boys together again.
Absolutely.
But as we close out this podcast, and especially on this kind of a note, there was a lot of motherfuckers that I saw on Facebook when Hardy got released.
Yep.
I'm pointing at you in this camera, people. even though you're not going to see this video. You should be fucking ashamed of yourselves. Every last one of you. And I know this is going to be edited so that you don't hear me swear, but I hope at least one of those gets through. Because you found that man guilty of once again being a drug addict and an alcoholic. And the erratic video you saw from a fan recording him jumping the barricade and leaving. You thought nothing of it. Well, he was negative. Go to hell. That man deserved more respect from you than that after all these years. Assholes.
Yep. And what's interesting is, you know what? Yes, we're heading towards the Elimination Chamber, Saudi Arabia. That's fine. What's interesting is WWE, and I'm going to say this, and yes, we've been the shows has focused on WWE primarily, and that's mainly because they've been in the news all week, over the last week and a half. And yes, AEW has had notable things, and we'll talk about it and everything. But WWE had their fourth quarter financial results call with Vince and Stephanie, Nick Khan, and Frank Riddick. And some of the notes that came from this is they had an increase in generated profit and revenue over $1 billion and reimagined their business over the last year, which is something they do every month, if not every week. There was a 20% jump in viewership from 2019's Money in the Bank. SummerSlam 2021 was up 30%. So the viewership's been improved.
That 31% was probably due to John Cena.
Yeah, most likely. They are over 3.5 million fully paid Peacock subscriptions that have watched WWE content since the move over, compared to the 1.1 million WWE Network subs in the United States, which, let me state this, the 3.5 million subscribers of Peacock, they don't subscribe just to you guys. They subscribe to Peacock itself. WWE is a sub-channel of Peacock.
But with that, can't you check, not much like Nielsen ratings, can't you check how many people click on that?
Yeah.
And you can check their accounts, like, because they've got to have the metrics to be able to say this account for the first time ever clicked on a WWE link.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm very, very sure. They stated that more fans are watching WWE events more than ever. It was various other numbers. They had like a 31. I seen like somebody stated they had like a 31% like income increase or something, which, if you're interested in like the breakdown of the numbers and everything, you can follow them on Twitter, Brandon Thurston and WrestleNomics. Dude does amazing work with his breakdown of financials and ratings and everything. Like, if you want to know what's going on with ratings and financials with WWE, AEW, yeah, I'm going to give him the shine. Brandon Thurston and WrestleNomics. Follow them on Twitter. You can see all that information. I follow them. I look at that. I'm like, it's super in depth. It's super fantastic. The work that he does. So just switching gears to AEW. Of course, AEW is working towards their Revolution pay-per-view event. They've got a lot of stuff going on, whether it's CM Punk and MJF, whether it's Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley, potentially becoming a tag team. Like,
yeah, I mean, AEW's got some stuff going on that, like, we could talk about for another hour. And
they
especially considering that, like, from what again, full disclosure, at the time of this recording, I have yet to watch the 40-minute CM Punk versus MJF match.
Yeah,
40 minutes,
and that's primarily
live television.
One of the reasons why I don't want to talk AEW is because you haven't watched the Dynamite
I have not watched it, ladies and gentlemen. I am sorry. From the bottom of my heart, please let me watch the episode before we discuss this.
You're moving into a new place, sir.
Yeah, and I love CM Punk, and I love his work, and I think the story that he and MJF are telling is almost better than the story that Jericho and MJF, because it's one guy against a group of people and not group versus group.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a different dynamic. And I mean, I got to watch it for myself.
Yes. But I will say this before we wrap up here, we do have something special for y'all. Recently, I sat down with Matt Minnick, also known as Love Panda on TikTok. He is a pillar of the wrestling TikTok community. There were some recent events that happened back in January with that community of wrestling fans. A person that had a immense following, had numerous things or accusations, so to speak, that came out to be true. Taking of money from viewers, getting donations for a independent wrestling show in Georgia, never going, essentially taking $3,000 for one of his viewers. And then, of course, the big one, talking to an underage female as well. So I sat down with Matt and we had like a long conversation, probably an hour and a half conversation, just everything covering that and a lot more things of wrestling and everything. So so for y'all, keep listening. We're not done. That interview is going to be coming up after the break. And then, of course, we'll be back after that. Well, at least I will wrap up the show. And then we'll be back next week. We'll be focusing on AEW, of course, Impact, and all the work Matt Cardona has been doing, because now Matt Cardona is the social media champion, according to Twitter, after beating Jordan Grace. So now Matt Cardona is not only the internet champion, he's the social media champion and the deathmatch king. So, like, it's just a wild time in pro wrestling now. But for everyone, keep it locked. We're going to have the interview. And for those that don't want to listen to the interview, well, we'll see you next week. Thank y'all for listening. Follow us on Twitter, TBTR Podcast, of course. Drop the follow. And of course, if you please like what you hear, like what you see when we do our Twitch streams, drop a follow, drop a like, drop a subscribe. So you can listen to us on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you can find your fine ass podcast. So we're going to head to break, come back with the interview for Sergeant Fury. I'm Pat G. Listen to the interview. It's fun. We will see you guys on that flip side. Hey, y'all, we are going to take a short break from the show real quick just to pay some bills. Please do us a favor. If you like what you hear, like what you see, please drop a subscription or follow to gearnetwork.com, as well as the TTRP Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. That way you get notified when we have new episodes go up via your podcast services. Thank you. And now back to the show.
Okay.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. Pat G, the G stands for gangster, by himself. No Sergeant Fear tonight, but we do have a special guest interview, another member of the TikTok wrestling community. He is the Love Panda himself, Matt Minnick.
Well, thank you for having me. That's a hell of an intro. Damn, how do I follow that act up?
when you're doing a podcast, you have interviews for 10 years, plus you got your ring announcer experience. It kind of comes with the territory.
And that's fair. I'm usually on your side of the table.
It's a whole different situation for you this time. All right. So of course, followed Matt through TikTok and the hashtag Russell Talk community. As a lot of people know, that's where the Mr. Professor is from, as well, with his videos doing entrances, and there's a bunch of other people. There's hashtag Heel Club, and there's Heal this and Heal that, and Face this and Face that. A lot of people that are general wrestling fans, that some of them, and I will admit myself, I have gone after. I have brought up on the podcast and in the past because of videos I've seen, and I've had opinions and just kind of talking in general. Nothing bad, just kind of like, all right, well, you guys are showing your youth and fandom, because at one of the earliest things of Wrestle Talk is back in 2020, when, of course, COVID-19 pandemic started. There was this like promo battle thing going on, and I can't remember who it was. They were talking about what was like your earliest memory of pro wrestling, and a lot of these people were bringing up like late 90, like 98, 99, early 2000 moments, or during the Attitude Era, and I'm going, that's your earliest memory of wrestling? Not saying that the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars was a bad time. It's what it was. It's one of them. It was one of them great historic times in pro wrestling, WWF, WCW. But if you really look back at it as we do now, 90% of the actual content was not good.
No, it wasn't. And I've done pieces on that myself, actually, about how the content wasn't that good.
Yeah. Now, of course, you're part of the wrestling TikTok community and everything. Now, how did this come about? Just for like, I know you've probably had interactions with people and everything more than I have. How did this come about? Just like a bunch of wrestling fans kind of commenting on stuff or bringing up talking moments and experiences and that.
I don't officially know as far as that. I got into TikTok personally myself about the same time you did. During the pandemic, I started like watching stuff. I never really interacted. I was always watched like from afar. And then it would have been last June, I messaged my girlfriend. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do a video today. And she's like, okay, cool. Good for you. Best of luck with that. And I did a video about just like using my son's Nerf guns. I was following somebody, like they pulled out their Nerf rifles, and then I pulled out mine, and I was just like, all right, I can play along with this. And then a couple days later, it would have been my 5th video I did. I did a video about how my dad looks like Earl Sinclair from the 90s show Dinosaurs on ABC. And I did a video about that, and it went viral because so many people believed that my dad was really Earl Sinclair from Dinosaurs. And I was like, guys, this is just a family joke. Like, guys, no, it's not. I'm not trying to clout chase. Like, this was just a joke I was letting y'all in. And like, I know with a lot of people, it's the hardest part is getting their first 1,000 followers. And I had that within a week. And I was just like, okay, so now I can go live. What the hell do I do? And Mr. Professor, as you brought up, Nick Harrison.
Yeah.
Nick, I've known Nick since 2015.
Wow.
Him and I met. Yeah, we met through eFeds, cutting promos on each other. And when he started getting big on TikTok, I would always talk to him and like, dude, I'm super proud of everything you're doing. This is crazy. And he would tell me like, you need to just do it. Just do one. You'll have fun with it. Just do it. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I messaged him. I was like, I started doing 90s Did You Know of actors that you didn't know were in 90s television shows. And then I was sitting there. I was like, this doesn't feel like I'm being mean. And I did a couple of videos about wrestling, and I started getting some interaction. I was like, okay, we're starting to get a little bit of spark in this fire. And I messaged Professor again, and he's like, keep going. That
support system.
Having him, if it wasn't for Professor, there would be no Love Panda on TikTok. He's the one that brought me here.
Yeah, he was kind of.
I always tell him that all the time. Professor's amazing. He's always been that way. He's always like the guy that people see on TikTok, that inspirational, smiling, happy bastard that he is. He's literally that guy in real life too. I've had a lot of deep, heartfelt conversations with him, and the dude is very much as genuine of a human being as you can imagine. And he would give you the coat off his back or the shirt off his back, all those semantical terms that people use. But back to the story. We fast forward the clock from June to November, and I start getting like 3,000 followers, and I'm kind of proud about that. Like, all right, I'm not ever going to get to Professor level, but I got the 3K, and in the back of my mind, it's like, is that always the Green Goblin is sitting in the back of your head, like, you can do more, you can get 10,000. What are you waiting for?
The classic Angel Devil cartoon on the shoulder.
All the time. I live with that decision all the time in my life. And we fast forward to the whole revolution that I know we're going to want to talk about as we were discussing.
Yep.
And that has skyrocketed shit. I did not expect the TikTok rocket to get strapped to my back to go off of this from it. But since I started that whole original conversation, which was right about New Year's Eve, I've gained over 2,000 followers in 2 weeks. It's just like, holy shit, this is starting to really go somewhere. And I was actually just live on TikTok before you and I we came on here together. I had over 14,000 likes in 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Like that's wild to me. Like I'm just a 34-year-old dude that lives in Michigan. And knowing that at Royal Rumble on Saturday before the event, people want to meet me, and Infamous Opinionist and Comic Punk Guy and McCruver, like that's wild to me to think about at the brass tacks of my life. I'm just a basic dude. So it's wild to see that, to have followers or people that believe in you because of TikTok. Like, if it wasn't for TikTok, I would have never met Big Vito. I would never be working with the Big Vito brand and doing all the stuff I do with them.
Yeah. Like, this is the thing is, of course, there's always, as far as social media goes, there's always something that blows out. And it's whether it's via Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, it's all a matter of it's one simple thing. It could be the most random thing that just catches fire, and all of a sudden you're off and running. And if you're constant and you keep going and everything, you're just going to build up more and more. But being a wrestling fan, of course, and that back in 2020 when everything was kind of getting shut down, and that there was a big story about within the independent wrestling community that dealt with a lot of people that had been on television and talked about how they were interacting with fans under the age of 18. And then there were multiple reports of other people, quote unquote, training or coaching or either conditioning and everything. Joey Ryan was on the list. Velveteen Dream was on the list. People that I knew personally that I was friends with were on this list. And it was a big time story within independent wrestling. And if you had kind of any kind of wrestling media, big or small, it was something you had to cover because it was something talked about. Now, of course, and as we're now in 2022, yes, there's the hashtag Me Too movement and equal rights and all that, but you're still seeing the issues of people that are the adult ages, whether they're in their early 20s, mid 20s, whatever may be the case. They're building this giant following and interacting with people. And of course, you're going to run the risk of having underage people following you. especially on a platform like TikTok that, for the most part, I believe they have an age limit. I don't know. I haven't looked into it,
so.
But I don't think so, because I've seen like 12, 13-year-olds make TikToks with their friends or whatever, and it's come across my FYP and I've hit the not interested, because I'm like, yo, that's cool. Your parents were cool with you doing this. That's cool. Not for me. I'm over 35. I'm good. Like, I've had, ever since I recreated a TikTok, I've had random followers that I've ended up straight up removing, just because I look at the picture and going, you look a little young. No, goodbye. not taking that risk, and not that I was going to interact with them, but I was like, not taking the risk.
Yeah, exactly. I get it.
And then this course leads to how wrestling TikTok has grown. Now, I've seen over the last few years, everybody's grown. You talked about yourself, whether it's you, whether it's Nick, Mr. Professor, whether it's Heel Kevin, whether it's Heel Hugs, and the various other people.
We can go on and on.
Yeah, there's tons of people. Now, with a lot of creators on TikTok, of course, like I said, you have that big following. What's the general, have you guys, I know you all interact with each other. Have you guys sat down and kind of set a kind of general rule type deal, because you guys all have these followings, and you're viewed as kind of the forefront of that community? You guys set like a general basis rules and regulations how to do things?
That is a wonderful question. And that is one I haven't gotten asked through this whole thing. So kudos to you on that. Let's brass tacks it. When it comes to like the behind the scenes conversations of stuff like that, do we all interact? Absolutely. A lot of us interact. As you've noticed lately, Kevin and I interact a ton, especially since a lot of the things have changed in wrestling TikTok as we've dabbled around a little bit. As far as like general rules, have we sat down and, written out like a 10 commandments? No. Have we had a general conversation? Because the thing about like Heel Kevin and I, because you got to kind of figure with this whole revolution and everything, the two names that people associate the most to it is myself and Heel Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kevin and I have had a lot of conversations privately. We've met in real life, and we've had conversations in real life. We have a lot of mutual friends. Kevin and I have very much the same ideology on everything without even really having the conversation. With him being a former police officer and narcotics officer and things of his background, myself, my ex-father-in-law was actually a police officer. My ex-sisters and brothers-in-law were all military, stuff like that. So we have a lot of common understanding when it comes to things. And plus, like, we kind of started like not Bruce Wayneing it, but Batmaning it a little bit, where we start watching people from the shadows a little bit to kind of, not necessarily we're monitoring certain people specifically, but we want to make sure that the culture is starting to be what it needs to be. There's been too much toxic bullshit.
Kind of trying to keep it clean and fun and open, and not turn into something toxic.
Mm-hmm. And that's been the most humbling thing through everything, is the amount of people that have messaged me or commented on my videos or whatever it may be, telling me how they thanked me for making them feel like they had a voice, or now they're inspired to do TikToks because of me. I still look at myself as a small creator. And I know a lot of people look at me as like, oh, I'm becoming this face with Kevin and the rocket ship's on me. And like I was mentioning, I still look at myself as the small guy in a little pond, and I'm still trying to get to professor's level, like I was mentioning. Yeah. So it's super humbling when people tell me, that I'm one of the bigger wrestling creators, but I look at myself and I'm still like, I look up to people in this shit too. And there's still people that I watch their content and I was like, you know what? He's got a point. Just, I do a different kind of style for TikTok. And that's something that I feel like was a necessary evil to bring to what it is. And I don't know how to really explain that, because like as you and I were talking off air, there's a lot of people that just come on and they have a very fan opinionated approach in things, and what they see on TV, and they have like the Roman Reigns t-shirt theoretically, and they don't like how Roman Reigns was treated. Does it really matter at the end of the day? No. But while we're here, can we sit here and have conversations without gaslighting people, belittling people, making their opinion feel like it doesn't matter? Absolutely. That's the point of this. And that's part of the whole giving a different thing, because you'll have so many of that marquee wrestling fan opinion across TikTok in general. You don't see somebody that kind of does a Daily Show approach, a Last Week Tonight with John Oliver type of approach, where it makes you think as you want to enjoy wrestling for what it is. That's where I kind of wanted to bring in a different kind of niche into TikTok, as you've noticed.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that I got drawn to your stuff, is because you had that approach. Because with as we were talking on air back on it, that like you've done like TV, radio stuff in the past. I have my background with radio and podcasting, sports broadcasting, and like the approach that I've tried to bring over the last like 6 months to a year of like this show is I'm trying to bring that journalistic approach to it. Yes. Is there still the fan in me? Yes. But like I have this kind of, I've now kind of broken it down to this like 33% like triangle like pie, where it's like about 30% of it's the fan, 35% of it's like the journal, like all the stuff that I learned from being in the business for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then the remainder of it is just being the fan, having that fan aspect of it. Because like you said, you're 34, I'm 39. We grew up during a time where the internet was never a thing in pro wrestling. You wanted to learn news and notes, you had to call a number, or magazines or tape trade or that.
Pro Wrestling Illustrated right here.
Yeah. Like it was Pro Wrestling Illustrated. It was WWF magazine. It was if you wanted to see like any kind of wrestling from Japan, it was tape trading. It was hotline. It was the WCW hotline. It was the WWF.
Mean G.
Yeah. Like that's how we got our information. And now like, and what's funny is you had, and I've even thought about it, like bringing up times of bringing up moments in pro wrestling and what it would possibly be like if this happened in 2022. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine or my friend that I do the show with. What would the internet reaction been for Hogan Andre at WrestleMania 3?
Ungodly.
What
Austin with the milk, or Austin with the beer truck?
Austin with, yeah. I like there was like a top 10 list of, if these moments happened in 2022, what would the internet be saying? And it was Hulk Andre, it was Austin with the beer truck, Austin Brett at WrestleMania 12, the Montreal Screwjob, the end up
13. That was 13.
Oh yeah, 13. That's yeah. The Montreal Screwjob, the NWO when Hogan turned heel. Oh my God! Like
finger poke.
Yeah, the finger poke of doom. Like it's all these moments that happened in wrestling history from the 80s and 90s and everything. Like imagine if these moments happened today and what the reaction would be. And then you have these creators that on TikTok that are now in the land that we live in. There's copyright rules and there's patents and everything. And you want to live stream a WWE event. You want to live stream New Japan. You want to live stream AEW. Go right ahead. But don't sit there as a fan doing it. Like, I've seen way too much of that aspect. And it's not even so much of what we discussed, how like the copyright rules, because they're like you can hear the actual audio from what they're watching and not providing any kind of commentary. They're just watching it as a fan and going, ooh, or saying that, like, you're not providing any insight to it, like, which is fine. If that's your thing, cool. But like you stated, there's that markish feeling, and this revolution that yourself and Heel Kevin have kind of like spearheaded. Are you guys looking to like accept it a little, like accept that markish feel into it? Because at the end of the day, we all are fans. We all are wrestling fans.
Absolutely.
But while you're trying to be accepting of it, but also keep it to where it's got common sense to it as well.
So it's a fine line type of issue. You were saying if they want to be super marky in their approach or whatever it may be, by all means, be as marky as you want to be. No disrespect taken. As far as like moderating that or, you know, making sure it's on the up and up, I don't want to sit here and put handlebars on people, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Or put a collar on them. I want you to enjoy it for what it is. The big thing that Kevin and I both agree on, especially myself on this one, and I know Kevin agrees with me too, I just can't speak for him entirely with it. But
of course,
with myself, I'm very ingrained in trying to see this, especially wrestling TikTok itself, not be the toxic culture it was. Of course, we can have fandom. Of course, we can be marky and have those moments. Trust and believe, Saturday when I'm at Royal Rumble, I'm going to be like a 12-year-old kid losing my shit for 3/4 of the night. But with it, there's like the art of war that almost comes with it. And as long as, you know, like you were saying, as long as you're making it on the up and up, and you're trying to build a community and you're trying to grow, and, you know, even if you just want to say one opinion and back out, that's cool. But don't flip the switch on the people that are trying to watch your stuff. If somebody's taking the time to watch your video, they want to take the time to enjoy your content. Don't be a trash panda to them because they want to disagree with you on something. You've seen in a lot of the comments on videos I've done, a lot of people, there's always going to be people that disagree with me. I don't care. That's fine. I want to hear the other side of that table. I'm not going to sit here and say your opinion doesn't matter when your opinion matters just as much as mine does. The problem is so many people get stuck in the line in the sand on how they feel about stuff that well, you don't like Roman Reigns. Well, you know what? Your mom's a hoe, and then runs away.
Yeah,
that shit needs to stop.
What's been coined as the keyboard warrior.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to eliminate and fix, that culture of keyboard warrior. Not necessarily, you know, we're going to realize our place or anything like that, but there's also got to be a general elegance of what we enjoy as pro wrestling as a whole. And if we don't get to enjoy that beautiful poetic elegance, why the hell are we watching it? If we want to nitpick everything about life, go talk about politics, go talk about religion, go talk about COVID-19. Yeah. This is meant to be a breakaway, a breath away for people. And if you bring that same type of toxic mentality here, when the hell do people get a moment to check out? That's what I'm trying to bring, is that moment where you can be like, you know what? I'm going to take a couple minutes and just enjoy this for me.
Yeah. And what's funny, and this is a opinion that I've had conversations with people that I know that have been in the business, have been wrestled 5, 10, 15 plus years that I'm friends with. In 2022, kayfabe is dead.
Absolutely.
Straight up. Like as my co-host Dan says, the Undertaker has an Instagram. And a TikTok. Yeah, and a TikTok. That's the thing. Like when the Undertaker like debuted the Instagram, and granted it was like videos of like him and his wife Michelle just working out. But at the end of the day, it was like the Undertaker has an Instagram. All right, kayfabe is dead, because for the longest time as a wrestling fan, you heard the stories. Undertaker never did interviews. Undertaker never did this because he stayed in character. If there was a camera or something, he was the Undertaker. He was not Mark Calloway. He was the Undertaker. even back like various wrestlers that say like he was the kind of judge and jury in the locker room because he was the leader, but he was that guy. He was the Undertaker. So of course we all, and if you have any kind of knowledge where if you work with somebody that's been in the industry, been on TV, you've had conversations, you know the behind the scenes. Is it real? Yes, it's real. The risks are real. The training is real. I trained. I've been trained. I know how to take bumps. I know how to take maneuvers. I know how to deliver maneuvers. Did I wrestle? No, because I got into it at a point where I was a little bit older. My body was beat up from playing sports and everything, but I was like, yo, I want to get into this. But I can go this avenue. I've taken Stone Cold Stunners. I've taken DDTs. I've taken moves. So it's the thing of people are out there. They're like, oh, it's just fake. No, it's not fake. These guys get hurt. These guys have real long-term injuries. These guys and lifelong things. Kurt Angle, perfect example. Steve Austin. Like you just look at it. It's funny if you watch some of the older stuff on like the WWE section of Peacock, they have the little commercials where it's like, don't try this at home and everything. Is it scripted? Yeah, it's scripted. It's scripted at this point in time. But it's the thing of, all right, if you spent any time in the independents, and I'm sure you've had conversations working with Big Vito, and that you have your match sheet, who's going over. It's up to the people in the match how to get to that end. Like, yep. And they go, and I'm like, we were talking out air, and we're legitimate friends with people on television right now in both and AEW and Impact and everything. Like, talk to that. You can ask them the simple question. Like, I've done training with the Blade, Pepper Parks, like who's part of the Blade, Butcher and the Blade on AEW. Dude knows what he's talking about. Dude knows what he's doing. Now, with TikTok, you brought up there was a toxicity to it at one point in time, and yourself, along with what Gil Kevin, have tried to kind of clean it up. What was that toxicity primarily about at the point that it was rearing its ugly head?
Oh, I love these questions. I love these ones that are making me think. So kudos to you, man. The camel, or the straw that broke the camel's back, was a specific moment. But I had, like I said, off air, I had sat Bruce Wayne up in the shadows watching TikTok and all that stuff. And even as I was sitting in the shadows watching people, and I won't say certain creators, because some of them I'm friends with now, and they've changed their habits, and I appreciate them for changing some of those habits. But there was a lot of gaslighting, and there was a lot of, well, you don't like my opinion, I'm going to make you feel like dog shit. And
hey, y'all, we are going to take a short break from the show real quick just to pay some bills. Please do us a favor. If you like what you hear, like what you see, please drop a subscription or follow to gearnetwork.com, as well as the TTRP, Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. That way you get notified when we have new episodes go up via your podcast services. Thank you. And now back to the show.
I've never understood that. I've never understood that philosophy. My parents are small business owners, so I kind of look at TikTok a little bit like a small business. If I treat my customers like shit, guess where they're not going to ever want to come back to? My place. I want that comfortability. I want that appreciation, and not for myself, but for everybody in the commonplace. And when the toxicity drew to a point, was the straw that broke the camel's back was the Tony Storm release. And I saw somebody that commented to one of the bigger creators and just asked a question. And he flipped it around into a whole attack about this guy. And that was my moment where I was like, you know what? No, I do my own thing. I stay politically out of shit on TikTok. I'm going to say something here because this isn't right. And I went to that creator on his comments and I said, actually, what you just said has nothing to do with the conversation. And you didn't answer his question at all. So quit being a dick. And he came back with, to basically give you a short run of it. I know what I'm talking about. Shut up and pay attention. And as people have gotten to know me on TikTok really fast, I'm not that one. I don't shut up. I have a very quick mouth. It's gotten me in a lot of trouble, sure, but it also got me into a lot of help.
You and me both.
Mm-hmm. And I called out that creator, and I had personal friends of mine message me as soon as I did it. One of my friends that I met through TikTok, PettyEndo89, he immediately called me within 5 minutes of me putting up that video, calling out that creator. And he's like, hey, bro, you all right? And he sat with me for like 20 minutes trying to make sure I was calm. I was like, dude, I'm fine. Don't worry. This is just something that needed to be said. And I feel proud in saying this. Then it started really changing some shit because I didn't expect people were going to want to proverbially jump in the foxhole with me. And the fact that so many people started coming forward and they're like, you know what? Yeah, we're tired of being treated like shit too. And F that guy. It was amazing to see because you don't really see stuff like that happen. You hear about it, you watch it in movies, but you don't really get to see it firsthand and let alone be the person that sparked it.
Yeah.
And I don't even still to this day, I still don't like taking credit for it, at least publicly. When I talk with like behind the scenes with my kids and stuff like that, like, Dad did this, like, check this shit out. Like, this person's deep shit because of Dad. Yeah. That's what really sparked it, was seeing the negativity across the love of professional wrestling. And my son, I have an 8-year-old son and I have a 14-year-old daughter. And my son, when I was doing eFeds, I had a character that was named the Franchise. And it was basically myself mixed a little bit with CM Punk, mixed with some Shane Douglas. And my son texted me in December and he's like, Dad, if I ever get into the wrestling business, can I use the name the Franchise too? And as a dad, that immediately melted me. I was just like, absolutely, buddy. By all means, you can be whatever your franchise you want to be, son. Oh my God, absolutely. Because in his mind, he thinks like I worked for WWE when I tell him I won world titles before, but it was in eFeds when I won championships.
Yeah, because it's the same thing. Like there's only 5 years between us. It's the same thing growing up when we were kids. Like there's that suspension of disbelief, like when they released like the WWE Wrestle Buddies and the action.
I love those things. God, I love those things
and everything. And you're in your room and you're beating up on your Ultimate Warrior, or Macho Man Randy Savage, or Hulk Hogan, or you're playing with the wrestling figures in the ring and you're commentating what's going on, and you're just this wide open imagination and going and watching whether you watched Hulk Hogan win the WWF championship, or Steve Austin, or The Rock, or Bret Hart, or Shawn Michaels, and you're a kid and you're watching this and going, I'm going to be that. Like this, like, no matter what kind of all freedom of imagination and dreams you had, that's what it is. Like you've participated in this eFed and everything where you've won the titles, but to your son, my dad's won a world championship. I want to be like my dad.
Yeah. And like, that's exactly it. And with him messaging me how he wanted to be me too, and everything that was happening on the TikTok side of shit, it kind of came full circle for me. And I started really thinking about it in a above me type of perspective about how, let's say 10 years from now, the next big streaming app, whatever the hell it is, because we all know TikTok will be dead in 10 years probably. But
technology always advances.
Exactly. But when my son comes on to that, and let's say he decides he wants to start watching wrestling TikTok, I want him to feel like his voice matters too. And, when he comes on, he can make his own friendships and his own he can make his own following whatever way he wants it. but those changes can't happen in the current reality that we had.
Yeah.
Up until the start of this year. That toxicity would still keep going until people like myself and Kill Kevin and some other guys were like, you know what? Fuck that. We're going to fix some shit because we're all tired of it, especially as dads and especially as fans more than everything.
Yeah. And this is the thing, like I had kind of like where you talk about that like Batman view and everything. Me personally, I when I first joined TikTok, there was promo battles and stuff like that. And I watched some of the promos and I'm just sitting in my head and I'm to be honest, I'm laughing at them because one, they were so over the top and ridiculous and made no sense whatsoever. And you got guys going a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes over multiple and at that time there wasn't the 3-minute option on TikTok. There was 60 seconds. Go.
That's it.
And you had like 2 or 3 different videos and you had to watch 2 or 3 different videos just to get the whole promo. And I'm going, number one rule that I learned in my time in pro wrestling was if you're going to cut a promo, 60 to 90 seconds, 3 bullet points, pop, 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 hit it. And these promos were just, and I commented on a few of them and kind of like been like, hey, I know what you guys are doing. It's cool. It's fun. This is my opinion. And some people were receptive. Some people were like, fuck you, piss off, whatever. And then I got to a point where it was like, that was what was constantly on my FYP. And I was just like, oh, what is up with this? Like, my opinion is holier than thou type shit. Like, no. And it made me to the point where I'm just like, all right, I need to step away from this app because at that point I was like considering getting involved with like doing wrestling content just because of my own history and knowledge and everything. But I backed off because I was like, yo, I'm going to have and I'm like, yo, I know I'm going to have opinions. I know people are going to disagree with them. But there's so much toxicity there. I just like, nah. And then I backed off and I came back in and I kind of watched from a distance and there was always 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 creators that I kind of was like, I kind of got to a point where, okay, you're the prototypical version of what South Park showed during the Warcraft episode. The guy in his house in front of his computer and everything. Like that's and like I'm gonna admit, like me personally, I wasn't gonna say that like, oh, you're living in your mom's basement or whatever, or mom's house, or whatever. Because at the time, because that's me. Like I have personal reasons, my mom why I'm doing what I'm doing as far as like that situation. But I'm kind of like, I'm looking, but I look at both sides of the spectrum. Like you see all these creators and they have probably thousands of dollars of lights and equipment and this and that. And they're doing all this stuff. And God forbid someone disagrees with them. And it's like that. And and this brings us to the prime reason of this interview. The one creator, I will say his name because I don't care. If for our listeners out there, the CTRP, if you are on TikTok, the creator we were about to discuss is Heel Josh. If you've seen his stuff, cool, whatever. If you follow him, cool, whatever. That's your own opinion and stuff. He built a following on doing whatever he was doing. My early interactions, I think I ended up getting blocked, and a lot of people have told their story very similar. They disagreed with them, and I think like one or two. I had like one or two disagree. Like I commented, like he told me basically, you don't know what you're talking about. I came back, I was like, dude, spent 10 years in the business. I know what I'm talking about. After that, rarely seen anything and that. But now, as you said, you and Kevin kind of led this revolution cleaning up the toxicity. And I always felt from my perch, where my like outside view, I wasn't in the community. I supported it, I followed it. I would watch full videos and go, that's a pretty cool ass opinion, cool ass thing you're doing. I always felt like him and like a couple other people kind of fed into it, because like they were trying to feed their own ego, so to speak, because of the following they got or whatever may be the case. Of course, now over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, there's been the big story. There's been the news and everything. Of course, social media. TikTok is social media. And there was the story we talked about earlier, with the list of all the professional wrestlers, and Snapchat conversations were screenshotted and evidence was shown. There's been a number of things brought up about the creator and that of what stealing money from followers, talking to underage people, among other things. What, as a community, have you guys done to kind of bring attention to it without getting yourselves in crossing that legal line? And I know you mentioned Heel Kevin, and I to be honest, at some point maybe I'll reach out to him and get his perspective on all of this as well, because I feel like he would have a very good perspective, with him having that real life history and knowledge of being a police officer and everything. I'm sure he's kind of tried to toe the line and everything. But as a community, because you guys all talk and interact and everything, what have you guys done to try to like toe that line to where, hey, we need to bring attention to this, but we need to do it without getting everyone in trouble?
I love these questions. My God, you were throwing some haymakers that are drawing out some conversations that I haven't had with anybody else besides certain people. When it comes to, this is going to be a loaded ass question. Give me the brass tacks one more time. I want to make sure I deliver every point of your question here.
Okay, so of course there's been the accusations, the stealing, stealing of money, or the money's been given to the creator for various.
The fine line on legalities.
Yeah, the fine line legalities of it, where like there's these major two accusations where it's, well, the community has donated, or three major accusations where the community has donated money. Money was not used for what it was intended to be. The accusations of interacting with underage females, and then of course the third one, and where you guys have addressed it, but you're addressing it to how you see fit. But you need to toe that line of not crossing into the slander or the harassment or the bullying, because as we know, 2022, online bullying and everything is a real thing.
Very incessant. So when it comes to the legality portion of this whole revolution, there was a Discord call that Kevin's mentioned quite a bit of, where people came forward privately and they all said their piece. And it wasn't just people like myself and Kevin. Some of the victims spoke their mind and spoke how their stories. And it was some of the most humbling things to ever have to listen to, and harrowing things in my life. When it comes to the legality portion of it, there's people, of course, that are going to, you've seen joke videos that have been made about this whole situation, pretty much since the jump, of people doing different like comedy spoofs on it, or Law and Order, or Chris Hansen. Somebody paid for a cameo from Chris Hansen.
I saw the Chris Hansen cameo.
That blew my mind, because I didn't even know about that till it happened. But when it comes to the legality portion of it, when we were in that Discord call, like I say, there was actually a state police officer that was in there with us as well. Okay. and talked with Kevin and myself, mainly at Kevin, because him and Kevin were already friends, and I understand a lot of what they're saying. That there is a very tight line on things that we can and cannot say, and Kevin, I'm letting be the mouthpiece of that side when it comes to the legal issues of that, and I'm kind of piggybacking off of some of the things that he's saying. Of course, doing my own piece on it as well and saying my side of it, because not everybody understands Kevin's way. Some people understand the way that I talk it. So let's get everybody on a level playing field. The hard part of the legality is so many people come out saying, well, we want to see the proof and we want to see this and we should have that. And if not, like he's innocent till proven guilty. Okay, that's fine. Just like that's the officer that was in the phone call with us said, just for public knowledge, the second that there is a minor involved in anything, it's illegal for us to show any of that evidence. And once we do that, we're already in deep shit. And plus, on Kevin's side and on my side, that violates the trust of the victims.
Yeah.
We're not going to stoop to that level and be like, hey, we have to do this because some random dude in Poughkeepsie wants to know what happened to you. So I'm going to air out all your proof. No, you matter more because you are the reason that we're here.
Yeah. It's very similar to like the major situation that we talked when the list was dropped. It was, yes, there was major accusations as far as like underage and everything. And even Joey Ryan, like Joey Ryan's name was on there. And Joey Ryan even stated, he's like, I have all the evidence that I need to prove that I'm innocent about this. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, due to the allegations of saying that these people were under the age of 18, I can't show it because of that legality of it.
And that also brings up another wonderful point. I thank you for saying that part about Joey, because with Joey Ryan, like you and I were talking off the air, Joey Ryan made a public statement to everybody where he came on camera and said, hey, or he ended up typing a long message out and explained his side. With this whole thing, and I know you use his name, I won't use his name because that's perfectly fine in my world. Yeah. So Voldemort, as I refer to him to, or Jash Binks, the only way that it can come out, and people don't understand this, and that's one thing that Kevin and I both fully do, is for him to come out and say that all of these things are false and all of these allegations and accusations are 100% false, and I'm going to sue Heel Kevin or I'm going to go after liability on somebody else. You've got to 100% prove that that's not true. It's not about us having to prove our case. It's about you having to prove that we're wrong in a slander and libel case. And last I checked, he's not saying anything. He went radio silent besides for his little notes, Apple Notes one-line sentence that he put up and screenshotted and disappeared, and nobody's seen him since. That seems more of guilt than innocence to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is the thing is, like I said, I said the creator's name once. That's all I was gonna. I told myself I was like because of the journalistic side approach of me. The initial, say it initially, and then after that, I'm washing my hands of it. The creator, that was my take. Is like I saw yourself, and I saw Heel Kevin, and I saw other creators that are part of the wrestling TikTok community post videos and opinions and their experiences and everything. And that was the interesting thing, because it was his main TikTok account got was deleted, or his Instagram was deleted, or
his Instagram was deleted. His TikTok was restricted for a few hours. Okay. His Instagram is completely gone, and I can't really talk about that on air why. We know why, but I can't come out publicly and say why. Yeah. But it should automatically tell you where that conversation is.
The various social media channels that the creator have now been completely taken down or restricted in some kind of way, shape, or form.
Or dormant.
And there's been no statement. It's kind of quiet. There's been nothing from that thing, from that side. And of course, with TikTok being the popular app that it is, And of course, like I stated, there, as far as I know from my research, it looks like, I believe their age restrictions like 13 plus.
I think it's 13 and up. Yeah.
I believe it's 13 up from my research, and even my research into the situation at hand. Does this, as kind of the leaders of the wrestling community for TikTok, do you think that this situation gives you guys a black eye a little bit?
Absolutely, it does. And I'm sorry to brass tacks it like that. No. That was something, and that's something that I noticed really fast with everything, is looking at it from the general public's perspective of if they come into wrestling TikTok at that time, all they're going to see is just toxicity, especially in that moment when the floodgates open. Which took us to, I had a conversation with Comic Punk Guy on TikTok, and him and I have become really fast friends over the last couple of months, and he's a phenomenal dude. And if you don't follow him, follow him. But Comic Punk Guy and I were talking because he does a lot of design work. And I had somebody in my Q&A section that asked if I had my own merch line. Yeah, I was like, I immediately laughed it off. I was like, fuck, no, I don't have a merch line. I'm a dad. Like, my kid would laugh at me if I had my own shirt. And I went to sleep that night. And when I woke up, I was like, you know what? Why don't we do something like that? But let's figure out a plan. And I talked to Comic Punk Guy, and he was like, I have my own store, Frontier Store. We can design a shirt for you, and we can put it up on my website, and we'll donate all the proceeds, and you can pick the charity that you want to donate. Like, that's a phenomenal idea. Let's do that. So he designed my Love Panda shirt, and I did a video about it, and I put the design up. I did a video for people where, all the 100% of all the proceeds of my shirt is like $10 a shirt. $5 of every shirt goes to the Cauliflower Alley Club for wrestlers that have fallen on hard times after they've retired. And $5 of every shirt goes to Alex's Lemonade Stand for childhood cancer. Because I noticed that we were getting a massive black eye in the wrestling community. So how do we fix it? We do something that's never been done. So Comic Punk Guy and I started that movement of, let's create a shirt. Let's raise some charity and do some giving back, because that guy took from everybody else for so long. Yeah. Let's do something for everybody else that he took from. And because of that, people like Nico Extra, who has over 500,000 followers on TikTok, he's at like every NXT event, every WWE event in Florida. He's a part of it now, and he has his own shirt on the shop. See, our podcast, my podcast, the Uncut Wrestling Podcast, we have our own shirt up there now. Comic Punk Guy, McGruber. There's so many people. There's like 7 or 8 or 9 different creators that have shirts on that Frontier store now. And we also have stickers too. And 100% of the profits all go to that. Plus, Heel Kevin, which we've been talking about. Yeah. Kevin has a massive following of himself with the Heel Kevin Army and his Heel Army, like you had mentioned. He has a specific design going on his specific store itself, and it's kind of an AEW-ish type of logo, but it's his logo. Okay. And he's donating 100% of the proceeds of all the sales from that logo for this month, all to our cause too. So we've already raised over $200, $300 for the cause so far.
That's awesome.
And to know that we've sold like 20, 30 shirts already, and we're just TikTok dudes from Michigan and Illinois or wherever the hell we are. Like, that's amazing to see that we're actually not just talking about making a difference, we're doing a difference. And I'm delivering on what I said I want.
Yeah, you're talking about it, but you're also doing something about it. Now, of course, we're going to get into the main two things. The first being, creator I know has a hell of a following on Twitch. I looked up the Twitch channel. I kind of looked at a couple of videos and everything. I had my opinions. I'm like, I'm surprised Twitch didn't take you down already, because you're already breaking copyright laws to begin with, as well as content laws. But here nor there, and that's just my knowledge of the TOS within Twitch. Now, of course, as we talked on air, because I just wanted to get a little background and everything. There was a show in Atlanta, Georgia, held by Zicky Dice. Zicky Dice has a hell of a following on Twitter. He put the show together and everything. And there's this creator held a drive, whatever, subathon, whatever you want to call it, on his Twitch channel. Donate and for him to go, because, as you said, all these Twitch creators got invited to go. And he was the one person that never showed up. But on the flip side of that, myself having my Twitch channel, I'm a very small creator here nor there. I've done some I've done some live podcasts with this show. I've been on other shows and everything. Twitch is one of them things where if you interact with people enough, you start to build a community. You start to build a following. You make friends and everything. From what I've learned and from talking to you and seeing videos and everything, is all this money was donated for him to go, and the money was taken. And to me, that's just another black eye on the community itself, because he's because it's association. Granted, it is Twitch is a whole different platform, but you're going to have you're going to have a lot of crossover, and that's just another black eye on the wrestling community on TikTok. Now, without getting into legality issues and all that, when you guys found out the news of this happening, what was your initial thoughts and feelings?
Mine was absolute catastrophic shock. I remember the exact moment where I was. I remember exactly what I was doing. It's burned in the back of my head now. And for those that might be listening, I'll give you the whole story of it. I went to GCW in Detroit with my daughter, and shout out to my good friend MLJ. That was an amazing show. Thank you. And when I got home that night, I was laying in bed, and Kevin tagged me in a video. And I was just like, well, that's odd. Kevin doesn't normally tag me in too many things, and let's just give it a little look-see. And he dropped the news of all of it. And my jaw hit the floor, and I immediately sat up in bed, and I was just like, oh shit, this has really started now. I spoke of revolution, but I didn't talk about taking down a monarchy, and here we are. My absolute original thought of this was shock and disgust. There was no pride in any of me trying to bring notice to this and me trying to bring change and the things that I proclaimed, because I almost came across like I was a politician in some of the videos I had done. And I know it, watching it back, I came across very political. But with it, the disgust of being a fellow creator and having to put the T-bone steaks on the black eyes that we keep getting as a community. And we got so many damn haymakers through finding out one piece after next piece after next piece. And so many people have come forward, and so many people have been trying to tell their story, and we've been moving forward finally, which is the best thing of all. And that's something that Kevin doesn't speak as much about. And I'm not talking smack about Kevin or anything like that. Kevin wants people to never forget the history. And I absolutely I'm with him on that entirely. Yeah. I'm the type of mentality where we have to move forward, but we will never forget. And that's where Kevin and I, between the two of us, people really understand what we're doing, and they've kind of jumped in with us. And it's one thing when you
jumped in that foxhole.
Yeah, that proverbial foxhole. That's something I've used since the beginning, was the whole foxhole comment. And I don't mean any disrespect to anything with what I'm about to say, but it's one thing when you have followers that are, mess that. Yeah, that guy's a piece of trash. Yeah. It's another when you have
Hey, y'all, we are going to take a short break from the show real quick just to pay some bills. Please do us a favor. If you like what you hear, like what you see, please drop a subscription or follow to gearnetwork.com, as well as the TTRP Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. That way you get notified when we have new episodes go up via your podcast services. Thank you. And now, back to the show.
Wrestling creators that are much bigger than you, and people that you look up to, and they're like, you know what, man? Yeah, we're with you too. Like, and it's not for any kind of personal gain. It's not for me to kind of get any kind of clout. It's not for me to raise my following. It was just I wanted to make it a little bit better of an experience because it goes back to my eFed days. When I was in eFeds, I had my own group. It was called Underground Promo Wrestling, and it still lives on Facebook somewhere. I own the pages still, and you can still see some of like my early promos and shit like that. But when you talk to a lot of the people that work there, quote unquote, they always say that when they went to other places and done their craft of eFeds and promo work and stuff like that, it never had that family feel and that community feel that we had within Underground Promo Wrestling. And that was something I joked about a vision with them back in the day. And this is the first time I've kind of said it to anybody else that wasn't in that world, that back with eFeds, when I was in that about 5-6 years ago, when I was meeting Professor and we were gaining followers fast, him and I both, that why couldn't eFeds become the next professional gaming? Why can't someday down the road we start seeing on ESPN, we have regular people like yourself and I cutting promos on each other for money, and who you have a judges panel, just like you do with like Fortnite and all that shit.
Yeah.
I thought of something bigger than myself in that world. I just didn't know where it would be. And here we are 5 years later on TikTok, and I'm starting to see some of those fruits of that labor and seeing that, you know, I saw that change could happen. I just needed somebody to understand with me and stand next to me. And here we are 3 weeks into the war, as I've been joking about it. And we have the allied powers here have completely taken down West Germany, if you get what I'm saying.
No, totally. This is the answer thing before I get to the next point. With TikTok, like you have if you're on TikTok, you've seen like the council, which is the council and the Vanguard and the Vantalord and stuff. Like it's all cool and it's just for fun. It's just to kind of go back and forth, and that's what I felt like wrestling TikTok was at one point. Just kind of this back and forth and everything. Like when I saw the promos, granted, 65% of them were not good, but still, it kind of gave you that serotonin kick back, like memory down lane, like eFeds and everything. And now, of course, we're into this 2022 and everything, and as well, and piggybacking off the first point, the second thing that the creator did, that is the focal point of this, is on Twitch. For those listeners that don't know, people can sub to your channel, they can donate, they can spend bits, and through Twitch's affiliate program and even partner program, all proceeds are basically split 50-50. So you get 50% of whatever you get, whatever revenue you build. And every 30 days you get a out or everything. Of course, if you build a community, you have your everyday followers, people that are constantly going to be in there from day one. They're constantly in your chat. Whether they're VIPs, whether they're mods, whether they're legit friends of yours that you've just built a relationship through Twitch and then Discord channels and your community and everything. they're supporting you to the point of trying to help you succeed to what your goal is. And this brings us to the second point. And the second accusation that has been said is there was one person that donated a lot, that supported, that spent a lot of money by subbing, bits, donations, and to the tune of about $3,000. And so all in all, at this point, $5,000. And in 2022, granted COVID-19, the pandemic and everything, in 2 years, $5,000 is a lot of money, especially with the times that we've been living in. And it's been all, and other research and everything. It's been talked about how the creator started a relationship with this person, and this person that donated all this money and gave all this money was doing the typical girlfriend thing, like, yo, I care about you, I want to support you in everything, your dreams, your goals and everything. And that's what happened. When that dropped, and then of course this comes on top of the Zicky Dice thing and everything. When that dropped, and the information was dropped, whether by whoever dropped it or whoever found out first, and it was passed along and everything. What was that reaction? Because I feel like the reaction to the $2,000 being donated for him to go to a independent wrestling show in Georgia, that's kind of like, yo, that's disgusting. But now this is a little bit more personal. This is a person that's out there working whatever job that they're working, whether they're married, whether they're single, kids, whatever may be that person's personal situation, donating $3,000 of their money to someone because they have this belief that they're in a relationship and they want to support them. That, to me, that's like 10, 15, 20 steps higher than what the first one was. And as you said, that whole stake to the black eye, that to me wasn't even a black eye when I heard it. To me, that was a holy shit. This is a stab. This is a stab wound, because this is just because now it's just gushing.
Yeah, you're right. So how do I put this in a nice way? It gets to a certain point when you start hearing thing after thing after thing, and you start seeing proof after proof. It becomes more of, you're disgusted, absolutely, but at the same time, it's like, I'm expecting what's next. What's the next shoe that's going to drop? And this person that was the victim of that part, she's a wonderful human being, and I've gotten to get to know her a little bit through all of this, and she's a very supportive person, and she has a heart of gold. And to see somebody do something like that, like you said, it's more than just, a black eye moment at that. And we've taken more than a stab wound over the last couple of weeks with all of the accusations. Well, they're not even really accusations anymore, but it's been like we've been hit with a couple AK-47s in certain spots. And how many times we got to keep patching shit up where it's just like, damn, guys, like, when's the next shot coming at this point? And the best part, like, I've had some private conversations with some people, and I've even had the conversation with myself. As shitty as all of this truth has become, and within these accusations, the best part of everybody coming forward and everybody saying their piece and all of this is it makes it so we're not going to forget this. It's not going to go away. This is not something we're going to let happen again. And making people feel comfortable to be able to say, hey, this happened, and not automatically get gaslit, but okay, you have my attention. Let's talk. Mm-hmm. Because especially when it comes to creators, you addressed it a little bit earlier, how so many people start getting that holier than thou mentality. And, well, I have 50,000 followers per se. You're a little person. I've never understood that. There's still a human on the other side of that, and to see the original accusation of the underage. Then we move into the cancer money raise. Then we move into the victim that he took $3,000 from. Then we go to Zicky Dice, and that's the order of progression right there of the way that I found news out. It's just like, what is next? And now it's more of the fact of the community. I've really looked at it kind of like the end of like the Grinch, when the whole community all comes out to the center and they all start like, it's okay to come outside now. Oh, okay. We can actually start to enjoy some of this shit. This is kind of nice. That's the way that it looks like it's starting to feel, as people are starting to open up their TikTok door a little bit and like, so we can talk wrestling now and we actually matter. That was the whole point of all of this.
Yeah. And now, of course, like you just stated, the process of how you found out in order. Mm-hmm. Of course, the third thing being the underage thing. Now, like I brought up earlier, it's TikTok. TikTok had to my knowledge is 13 plus and everything. So this is the thing is and this was my opinion. Whenever I heard things back even in 2020 when the list dropped. Okay, if you're over the age of 21, whether you're a celebrity, whether you're a musician, whether you're a content creator via Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, whatever may be the case, there has to be a level of common sense and morality.
Bingo.
In what you do and how you interact. And my thing is I'm 39. Have I had people that are 18, 19, 20, 21 show up in my Instagram comments or TikTok comments or Twitter comments or absolutely. Mm-hmm. Am I ever going to engage in anything past general conversation with them? No. Nope. Because I'm like, what? And there's the cliche thing of age is only a number. Yeah, age is only a number. But at the end of the day, like, there's a massive disconnect in everything there, guys. Like, and this is the thing is, the creator, I don't know how old they were or whatever. Like, to me, I felt like the creator was probably in mid 20s or late 20s, somewhere around that.
Creator's in his, mid to late 20s. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, hey, you built the following 30,000, whatever the number. My thing is you can have, and I've told my friends this, like, you can have 1,000 followers on TikTok or Instagram or Twitch or whatever, and you could broadcast videos and content and everything. But at the end of the day, how many people are actually sitting there and taking the time out of their day to give to you? Like, the numbers don't mean shit, because behind those numbers are real people with real lives, with everyday jobs. And when the news broke of the 2020 and it devastated independent wrestling, it had a major effect. It had a major effect on the wrestling business in general, because that was a huge black eye at that point. Because there had been stories and locker room gossip and everything of select people talking and like engaging in underage things via Snapchat or whatever, just because of the way Snapchat works. You send a message, it's gone, whatever. Stuff like that. But in the world of smartphones, screenshots. It's the thing of wrestling talk, and that community of wrestling on TikTok has grown. And now that major accusation of the creator actually engaging in some kind of relationship with someone under the age of 18, that's not so much the black eye. That's not so much the AK-47. That's like the mortal wound type deal, because like you said, if you have people show up at the time that all this started going down, and some people are going, oh, cool, they're wrestling fans. Let me check this out. And they see all this stuff, all this drama, all this story and everything. They're going, okay, that's the one guy.
I'm out.
This one guy is doing this, and then it's going to make them question about, okay, well, if he's doing it, how many of the rest of you have done this? Because that's what happened when that whole story dropped in 2020 in the independent. It was like, all right, name. It was like, what name's going to drop next? And
exactly.
With, like I said, and like we said, we're not trying to cross that legality line or everything. When that dropped, when, and I know you said that was the first thing that you found out about. Yep. When that truly dropped, and the proof was in the pudding or whatever, however proof there was out there by people's statements, victims, whatever. How did you guys come together to address that as a community?
So a lot of people, and this is going to be a very unique retort you're going to get from me on this one, because there was a lot of the major wrestling creators who, of course, were on myself and Kevin's side when it came to this. But there was a lot of creators that were like, you know what? I'm washing my hands clean of this one. This one's not my fight. I'll see you guys on the other side, which no big deal. I get it. But when it came to, everything came forward. Kevin and I have had a few conversations with each other. Like I said, we knew each other before TikTok. It's not as much having a general conversation with each other. It's kind of having that mutual understanding that him and I have. You and I both have a vision of what this can be, but the only way that this can be done is Thanos has to go away. We cannot have Endgame. We've got to have, or we can't have Infinity War happen. We've got to have the end of Endgame. And when we have somebody that is such a massive creator, that's like, I've done videos on saying, how they were supposed to be, with that kind of following, you're supposed to be a beacon. You're supposed to be a stalwart where people across the platform look up to and be like, that guy's killing it. But when you're turning around and shitting on the proverbial kingdom, after time, there's going to be a revolt. And when all of this started happening with everything, Kevin and I, there wasn't as much of a let's sit down at a table and have this kind of conversation and set some ground rules and brass tacks rules. Kevin and I literally think the same way on so much of this that the conversation isn't even necessarily needed, because a lot of the people that have come forward and things like that, Kevin is heavily protecting them, and I absolutely get it because I protect them too. I know who they are. I've had conversations with them myself. I know all of these things firsthand, just like Kevin does, but they are closer to Kevin than I. But with it, the thing about all of this is it is a mortal wound, and things like this can really make things dissipate entirely. Something like this, you automatically have people that just in general are like, you know what, I'm done with wrestling TikTok because of that guy. Or like you were saying, well, if he did this, how many people are doing that type of conversation, where if you don't have people trying to become the stalwarts or become those pillars to fix the foundation that's been knocked down, everything stays in ruins. And if you don't take the time to really understand how beautiful this wrestling TikTok or wrestling Twitch or whatever way that you enjoy professional wrestling, if over time, if wrestling TikTok became like the old school Xbox Live Halo chats, because you and I both know how those could have went back, or those went back.
or even the old school Call of Duty chats.
Absolutely. Like, tell me what the big difference is between those old school chats and what wrestling is, or wrestling TikTok is now. There's not much of a difference. It's just, we're going to hide behind our headsets. You can't see me, but you're going to hear every piece of venom I have. Yeah. No, you have a face. And when you come onto a wrestling TikTok, there's so many people that tag me in videos now, especially, or they duet or stitch my shit or whatever it may be. I literally take the time to watch every single one of them, because it's me paying it back to them in just a little pinch. You took the time, like you said earlier, to watch the content. I want to make sure that if you're going to take the time to even retort me and tell me I'm a jackass and I'm wrong, I'm going to take the time to hear you tell me I'm a jackass and why. And you know why? Because there's a human on the other side of that still. And that's what Kevin and I have really spearheaded in this change, is showing that it doesn't matter if you have 281,000 followers like Voldemort had, or if you have 26 followers like some people, or even less. Your voice matters, your opinion matters, and your content matters here. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah, and my whole thing is, when, like, before I reached out, I watched all the videos and everything, and kind of like, okay, I need to know more. Because if I'm going to approach this and use it as a way to maybe showcase it via my platforms, I need to know as much as possible and get different opinions and everything, and how people are handling it and what they're doing. And that was the thing. Like, Nick Harrison, professor, like, he's got the massive, like, awesome guy, fellow member of the Bills Mafia, has a huge following, but he's not all wrestling content. Like, he's got that wrestling fandom and everything. He's not all wrestling content. And most of the wrestling creators on TikTok aren't just all wrestling content. They have different stuff and everything, but they have the majority of wrestling content. And I always felt like the creator that had all this stuff, I saw the numbers and I'm going like, yo, dude, you have 250,000 people plus taking the time out of their days, whether they're parents, whether they're working 12, 16-hour days during a pandemic, commenting, liking, following, viewing, whatever. And then you have that approach to it where if they disagree with you, you're instantly wrong, get out. Or this, I know better, or whatever. And this is the thing, is now that all this has happened, and like you made the statement of, it was essentially that, like, that World War. It was the Axis powers taking down Germany, and that, like, wrestling TikTok had this giant Berlin Wall type deal. And on the one side you had the creator, and then the other side you had everyone else. We need to break this wall and take them down. And unfortunately, and the cliche thing of my dad says it, God doesn't like ugly.
True.
And in the thing of it is, if God doesn't like ugly, and I've always maintained this, if you do dirty, it's gonna eventually catch up to you. And now that it's caught up, and all this stuff has come out, and you and Kevin have done fantastic work from what I've seen, as far as talking to the people, the victims, and everything, and keeping their anonymity close to the vest, and not forbidding their trust in you guys and everything, which I applaud straight up. But you guys, on the other side of that, you're trying to show people that walk into these videos are like, hey, we're going to accept you, come in with your opinions, we're going to listen, we're going to retort. You want to have that conversation instead of, oh no, you're wrong, and that. And that's what led, that was the major thing that led to me having this idea. I'm going, hey, this needs to be addressed. It's getting addressed via TikTok, but it can be addressed on a whole bigger platform because it shows the good and bad, and it shows the good, bad, and ugly of social media.
Absolutely does.
And
there is I'm gonna cut you off on that because you bring up a brilliant point, and I apologize. But when you bring up the good, the bad, and the ugly, you hit that nail dead on the head, especially when it comes to wrestling TikTok, because there's so many people that do phenomenal ass content that don't get any kind of look. They don't get any kind of viewership, but they're sitting there grinding out videos and they're doing phenomenal work. And then you have on the back end where you have these Ursula or Scar or just Voldemorts that are putting out absolute ugly, trash, vilified, singular approaches on professional wrestling, where if you're a general public person who, let's say, I had one of my followers commented to me earlier today, said he hasn't watched wrestling in over 20 years, but he just likes watching me because I'm interested. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Because when you have general public wanting to just kind of, okay, I'll hear what he's got to say, that shows something different. That shows progress on our side as wrestling fans, because we're starting to break down that Berlin Wall with general public, where we don't get that stereotypical, oh, you like professional wrestling, you know it's fake, right? Bullshit. Where back in the 90s when everything was clanging and banging, it was everybody was huddled at the TV and everybody's watching Raw and everybody's watching Nitro and they don't know what's happening next and they got to keep changing the channels every commercial break. That paradigm has shifted now within TikTok. And we're starting to see over the last couple of weeks, so many of those wonderful creators finally start to get some of their recognition. And I'm not even talking about myself with that. There's a lot of wonderful people that, with Voldemort going back away and Harry Potter kind of brought the Horcruxes out, that they're starting to figure out their spells and they're starting to make some really wonderful content. And that's the whole point of this, is one person does not gatekeep all of us as wrestling fans. We all matter. And I apologize, and the floor is back yours.
No, you're good. And to build off your point, you're absolutely right. Because like you said, you looked at this creator and like you could be a beacon for this community because you have this following. But it was like it was essentially like the Shrek reference, Lord Farquaad. Like the way he like treated everyone, that's how I looked at it. I was like, all right, here's the wrestling talk community. Here's the creator in this like Lord Farquaad type role. Like, I have so much following, more than all of you guys. I am like the king. But as you said, you treat your community, you treat people wrong enough, eventually a revolt's going to happen. They're gonna get tired of it, and that's what happened. Granted, the creator at the end of the day did it to himself, but it took the people he was doing the stuff to go, all right, no more. And then it took more people to go, we need to address this because otherwise it's going to be bad for all of us no matter what. And it was a perfect storm, so to speak. And in the first month of 2022, guys have essentially, as you said, like found all the Horcruxes and destroyed them. And now it's gone. The evil's gone. And what's funny is I can't remember what I was watching something, and there was a thing of there cannot be good if there's not evil, or there cannot be and that's essentially what it is. At some point in time, and knock on wood, I hope it doesn't happen. Creator's going to come back at some point. Somehow, some way, they're gonna reappear at some point, and at that time, it's a matter of at that time, if and when that creator does return, I'm hoping that yourself, Kevin, and everyone else that's kind of spearheaded this whole thing has built up enough good and positivity to go that when he comes back, people are going to go, why are you? Hey, y'all, we are going to take a short break from the show real quick just to pay some bills. Please do us a favor. If you like what you hear, like what you see, please drop a subscription or follow to gearnetwork.com as well as the TTRP Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. That way you get notified when we have new episodes go up via your podcast services. Thank you. And now back to the show. Okay, you're back. That's cool. Like, we remember what happened. And that's never going to change. But like I said, knock on wood. In the light that he does, that the creator does return somehow. What have you guys talked about that possibility in discussions of if and when he reappears?
Have we had the conversations? No. Have I had the conversations within myself or like some of my personal support team that I have? Yes, I have. Because you always have to look at the other side of it, because that's part of studying the art of war, is knowing your enemy. In this case, I have a massive ass enemy, Voldemort, and Harry Potter won that round. And I know he's going to come back. There was 7 goddamn books. It's just the fact
there
that
were 7 there were 7 books, and there was 7 up until the grand return in book 4. There were 3 other incidences of stuff that he had left behind to ensure his return.
Yep. And I know he very much has that still. I know he's still watching us. I know he is. I know he's still watching Kevin's content. I know he's watching my content. He has people that are watching us still, and I see them. I know some of them by name, and it's one of those things where you know you keep your enemies closer type of thing.
Keep your friend.
Your friends close, enemies
keep
close.
Your friends close, enemies closer. Yeah.
Yeah. And with that argument, I've seen, especially with like Kevin. Kevin's had it more than I've had lately, where he's had a lot of videos that have been flagged for bullying and harassment and all that shit. And I haven't. They've been monitoring me, but the difference between like what Kevin's doing and what I'm doing, like I said, Kevin's spearheading a lot of we're not going to forget this stuff.
Yeah.
Where I've been spearheading, we're gonna fix this and move forward. But Kevin and I will not let anybody forget what happened here. And
you guys, because I've watched.
There's a substantial chance that he might end up appearing, and we both know that there's a fear, not even necessarily a fear, that there's a substantial chance that he will appear. But with it, like you said, we've done a lot of good lately. We have done a lot of good to try and fix some of these things and start to bring these changes, and starting to see new creators or people that are fans of ours, which is weird to say, that are stepping out of their shell even more because they feel more accepted,
more comfortable. More comfortable. Especially because one of the things that I followed Now I know when you said the thing that kind of spearheaded all of this was the Toni Storm release, her announcing the news that broke of her asking for her release, and there had been numerous reasons and everything from Dave Meltzer saying it was burnout to the way she was treated on the main roster and all that. One of the things that I remember was back when Max Caster did the Simone Biles rap and the mental health stuff. 2022, mental health is real. Support your friends. Everybody deals with it in somehow, shape, or form, whether anxiety, depression, bipolar, borderline disorder, whatever. Like, we all deal with it. If you load in a room of 2,000 people and go and look at a giant screen and go, hey, do you suffer from any one of these? I guarantee you all 2,000 people are going to raise their damn hands.
Every single one.
When the Castor thing happened and he did the Simone Biles line and everything, I know there's a lot of people that looked at it and thought it was funny. They thought it was funny. They didn't look at the seriousness of it. Other people looked at the seriousness of it. Me, when I saw it, I kind of was like, I chuckled because I was like, there's still that suspension of disbelief. Mm-hmm. And yes, when he cut the rap and everything, it hit a lot of people with the realism. But at the end of the day, it's also entertainment. And there's that quote unquote thing of, when you're a heel, you got to do heel shit. And you got to do something. Get heat. You got to get heat. You have to do something that's going to get heat. And what's funny is when that dropped and I saw the opinions and everything, and then numerous people I've come across videos of people talking about that specific situation with the creator we've been talking about, and how he just was like, yo, I'm blocking them because whatever the thing is. It's the thing of how, with mental health being such an important thing, have you guys addressed the mental health side of how this is affecting people?
I have. I have with my team. I have a support team of probably 10 to 15 people. Okay. That are people that are really close to me, that really believe in the motion that I'm doing behind the scenes even. And when it comes to the mental health part of it, like you said, as somebody who deals with anxiety and depression himself, I go to therapy every single week for it. And I've done a few videos about my mental health for people because, how do I put this? With myself, especially, I won't speak for other wrestling creators, but I can speak for myself. I try to be the most I want you to have the most genuine, honest experience that I can give you in 15 seconds, 60 seconds, 3 minutes. And like I said, I've done mental health videos. I did one the other day where I just came on and I was like, I just want you to know you matter. And whatever the demon is that we're dealing with, or the vice, or whatever that it is, you lost your job, girlfriend left, your truck broke down, basically all that shit you can write a country song about. You're not alone. And that's something that you don't see on wrestling TikTok, is everybody is so stood in their macho ways of masculinity that when you let down that side of you and you show you show the world that you're a man at your heart and you're not just a wrestling fan, that can cause a stir of emotions within people, where you automatically have people that are like, you know what, that guy's a pussy, he's talking about his feelings. But you also have a lot of people that are going through the same things that are like, I feel like I belong. And I don't feel like in that moment, I don't feel so alone anymore. and I can connect with this person. That's where change really happens, is helping. Like with our videos, are we about wrestling content, especially myself? Yeah, absolutely. I'm 95% wrestling content at this point. But within wrestling, you can inspire and you can change and you can help people. And when you have a following of 6,000 or 600,000, you can help people without even knowing it. And that was part of my personal revolution on all of this and bringing my own change to this, of saying that, not all wrestling fans are the same, and I can bring a change to this talk or this culture, and I'm going to do it one way the hell or the other. And it really happened. And I was really surprised by that. But back to the brass tacks of it. You never see people be human on wrestling TikTok. You always see a character version of themselves. You always see
that quote unquote, as they said, certain were during the Attitude Era, even WCW days and money, where you saw the wrestler, but you saw them turned up to 11, 12, 13 and everything. Like you don't see the realness of them.
Exactly. And it's the same thing within wrestling TikTok too. When it comes to creators and people that we look up to, you don't see that human side. And people, especially in this day and age, we clamor for connection to belong. And when we always see the same stuff, we don't necessarily feel like we belong. So if you can bring one different piece of change, where in my case, I'm very honest about my mental health. I talk to people about therapy. I talk to them about professional wrestling. I'm an open book, because that's the only way that real change can be. Is I can't sit here and say I'm going to proclaim revolution and then be a half-assed version of myself. You're going to see who I am. Good, bad, the indifferent, the highs, the lows of everything I deal with, because it's not just as much my ride as it is everybody else's too. And with the mental health part, if one person that is having a rough day is able to look at my content, or Comic Punk Guy or Kevin or yourself or whatever it may be, and they're able to just have a smile from it, and they don't even have to hit a like, they just smile from it. Yeah, my day's made.
Yep. There's a statement, there's a saying I've lived by this for a long time. If you can make someone smile or laugh, you made their day 10 times better. Because especially the way with mental health and everything is, somebody could be having an absolute shit day, and all you got to do is make them smile or laugh by doing something, and their day is 10 times better just because of that one moment. Now,
absolutely, it's wild to even think about. Like, one second, because I had somebody just yesterday that was like, you were the first wrestling TikToker that actually commented back to me and even went out of your way to follow me. So I'm forever in your debt and I'm forever on your team. Like that. Why is that something that we need to speak about? Like, yeah, why can't we? That's something that we shouldn't have to put a medal on us for. That should just be like, hey, we're doing our job as a creator. I'm making sure that you feel like you're involved. I'm doing my part.
Yep. I'm doing what I set out to do. Now I know, before, as we're getting close to here, wrapping up and everything, I know that you said you have a different approach. Kevin has a different approach as far as this whole situation. Now everything's kind of everything for the most part has kind of been said, done. It's the dust is settled, so to speak. Moving forward, have you and Kevin sat down and and I know you guys have conversations outside of TikTok and everything. Have you guys like sat down and kind of go and had that, okay, this is where we need to go towards or now type conversation yet?
Yes and no. No, in the aspect of we haven't had a direct conversation where him and I have sat there and this is the plan we need to follow. This is the steps we're going to do. Kevin has really entrusted me with that. I did a video about this a week ago because I've had a lot of people that have asked me, what's next? And my response to them was, you brought up South Park earlier in this. I will reference it right back at you. The World of Warcraft episode at the very end, when the boys are all sitting at the end and Kyle looks at Cartman, he's like, so what do we do now? And Cartman says, what are you talking about? Now we get to play the game. Now that dude that kind of looks like that dude from the South Park episode is gone. So now that he's gone, now we don't have to sit here and just kill pigs and level up XP. Now we get to enjoy the community and do what we can.
And enjoy the content and
exactly.
enjoy what the community was started out to be originally.
Exactly. And that's where Kevin and Hugs and so many of the other people that are in part of this, Comic Punk Guy and so many others, have really let me kind of become that front lead. Because I was the one that picked the charities. I was the one that started the war with Voldemort. I was the one that said we were going to change this, and we started to change this. So, of course, everybody's going to look at the guy that's been doing it and say, what's next? And I understand that because we're human, and at our nature, we want to know what the next plan of attack is. And Kevin, I have a lot of love for Kevin. He's a wonderful dude. And for him to entrust something which is kind of massive onto me is extremely humbling, with me being a smaller wrestling creator, but it's also a massive amount of pride for me knowing that it's recognized. And Kevin and Comic Punk Guy, yourself, Fan Dad, I could go through names upon names of people that have messaged me or talked to me or interacted with stuff about this. When it comes to what's next, peace is what's next. Now we get to enjoy professional wrestling. Now we get to enjoy each other's company. We don't have to worry about Farquaad putting us up in chambers or anything like that anymore. The castle's gone. Now I've kind of become the Che Guevara or the CM Punk or the voice of the voiceless or all these other fucking names that have been thrown at me. And now it's not necessarily peace, but we get to move forward and we get to progress it.
It's kind of, I look at it like when everything finally hit and the dust settled and everything.
Yeah.
I looked at it as the Ring of Power is gone. The Ring of Power is gone. Gollum is destroyed. It's now the Reign of Men. I like that Lord of the Ring, that ending when Gandalf put the crown on Aragorn, and I was like, now it's the Age of Men. Now there's a peace. Now people can enjoy without that fear of darkness there. That's how I looked at it. Which, like I said, what Kevin did, what Heels Hugs did, and all the other wrestling curators that have been on my FYP with this whole situation over the last 2.5 weeks, the work you guys have done bringing attention to this whole situation was amazing because it was needed. It was needed. It was needed. It was that the purge had to happen, and the purge happened. And I'm sure whenever the creator decides to return or whatever may be the case, you guys are going to be at the forefront going, okay, you back? Cool. I
can't wait for that day.
We didn't forget.
That's the day where old promo me comes back. That's the day.
You just have giant pads of paper and listed of all the things you're gonna say. That's what that is.
It's all sitting right here ready. The armory's ready to go.
So before we wrap up, something fun because we've been talking a lot of serious stuff and everything. and this is kind of like, we always do this at the end of our interviews and everything. You've stated that you're 34. What was your spark moment to become a wrestling fan?
It would have been one of two for me. One would have been watching Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger in 1992 at I think it was Wrestle Brawl or Wrestle War 92 for the WCW Junior Heavyweight Championship. That match just enamored me as a child. And I love Jushin Thunder Liger. I have his autograph actually just outside this door right now. Jushin Thunder Liger and Kazuchika Okada are my spirit animals. But the other moment would have been, I was either 4 or 5, and I was front row at a WWF event with my parents and my uncle. And my uncle was like my big brother growing up. And I still remember to this day, I was sitting on his shoulders. I had my Hulk Hogan bandana on with the Hulk power on it and all that bullshit. And the Bushwhackers came out. And back in the day when the Bushwhackers would come out, they would always end up like picking a kid in the crowd and then they'd mess with the kid and all that stuff. I'm that fucking kid. Yeah, I'm that kid. They came around the corner and Butch and Luke took my bandana off, licked my head, put my bandana back on me, and I went ape shit, losing my mind, like crying. And it went all full circle to 2 weeks ago. I actually interviewed Bushwhacker Luke. And I brought up that story to him, and I was just like, well, this is kind of full circle 30 years later. Yeah. So those are my 2 moments.
That's a major full circle moment right there.
Yeah.
So
I've gotten to do amazing things with our podcast. Well, like, I know we're wrapping up, and I'm going to wrap up part of this on a fun note too, because like with TikTok, I've only been on TikTok, like I mentioned with you, only 7 months, and 7 months of me doing content. And within the 7 months, our podcast has kind of skyrocketed. My TikTok, as you know, I did not expect this bullshit. But
we never do.
Yeah, exactly. But because of TikTok, I've gotten to meet Big Vito, and I work with Big Vito, and him and I do 2 podcasts a week now. I've gotten to interview Bill Alfonso and Alex Kane and Sabu and Paul London and all these wonderful talents. And it's been just the wildest damn 7 months. And it wouldn't have happened without people like you and so many other wonderful human beings that have found me along the way.
Absolutely. So of course, wrapping up now, this is the time that we usually give our guests the floor to give them their shine and everything. So the floor is yours to promote everything and anything, where people can find you, where they can hear you, where they can see you. The floor is yours. It is the quote unquote hot tag moment of the night.
This is hilarious because we do the same shit at the end of my podcast. So this is why I'm breaking down laughing right now. This is exactly the same ending we do. Like, the floor is yours. Say whatever you need to say. Everything of that is we do the same shit. So first of all, thank you specifically for letting me come on here with you, because last week or a week and a half ago when you randomly messaged me, first of all, you didn't think I was even going to read it. So
you know what? I'm the type of person where I there's the quote unquote cliche statement of shoot your shot.
Yeah.
I sent messages randomly, and because of the way my brain works with my own mental health issues, I'm like, I'm going to send this message. You're going to like look at it and go, who the hell is this person? Whatever. Like, that's how I view it. And if they respond and something amazing comes over, I'm like, yo, I'm here for it.
And like, so I needed to thank you for that specifically, because like, I've had a few people that have reached out to me and wanted me to do something like this. And besides for my own shows that I'm a part of, this is the first one that I've done since the whole revolution started. So you got all like the fourth wall information out of me. But I do want to thank everybody that listens to this and takes the time to hear my stupid ass. But you can find me on TikTok at LovePanda24x48. I'm on Twitter at LovePanda24. I don't even know what the hell my Instagram handle is. I'm just there, really. My podcast that I host with me and two of my best friends, the Ace Nick White and Robbie Cutthroat, our show is called the Uncut Wrestling Podcast with two T's. So Uncut Wrestling Podcast. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, wherever. We're actually in the top 150 in the United States right now for wrestling podcasts. And we've only been doing this for 4 months. So that's wild to us. And yeah, like that's the best places. Of course, if you listen to Big Vito's shows, Big Vito on his Patreon channel, he has 2 different shows with myself. He's got the Round Table with myself, Jargo, and Virtue of No DQ. And then he has Keeping It in Character, Everything's a Gimmick with myself every Sunday that we record on Patreon. So I've really sprouted out really damn fast. I don't have a Twitch yet. I'm still working on that. I don't have a Discord. I've had people ask about that. But as you can personally attest to, I'm not a hard person to get a hold of. It's just more of when I have a free second between all the bullshit, I get right back to people. So like, don't be afraid to interact with me. As much as people think I'm a big creator, I just think I'm a simple ass dude that just likes talking wrestling. So I'm not a prick. I'm not some Lord Farquaad. I'm not a Voldemort. I just want to make this place better. So by all means, interact, follow me, talk to me. I don't give a shit. It's not about me. It's about all of us.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Last question. How did you come up with the name Love Panda?
Yes. I knew somebody was going to ask you this. So my buddies that are like on the show with me, they already know the story. So Love Panda started out as a joke. Not even back in high school. I suffer from being built like Chewbacca underneath this shirt, and hashtag Wookiee strong. And back in high school, I was in a weightlifting class with one of my buddies, and I took my shirt off, and he's like, Jesus, you're built like a panda bear. And I was just like, well, that's kind of odd. It just sat in the back of my head. And a few months later, him and I were hanging out, and we were both under the experience, if you get what I'm saying.
Or as one of my good friends, Steve Savage Gaming on Twitch says, you were elevated.
Yes, I was very elevated. I was higher than a whale in that moment, just looking down on the ocean like I'm high as shit. And him and I looked at each other. He's like, man, I love you, Panda. And I was just like, wait a minute. That one, Love Panda, love you, Panda, love Panda. That kind of works. And then Love Panda became my gamer tag on like Xbox and PlayStation. Love Panda 24x48 is my PlayStation gamer tag, actually, too. That wasn't my actual original tag. My original tag was Trojan Man 24x48. And see, I knew you were going to get that laugh because so automatically people go straight to the condoms. My high school mascot was the Trojans. And when I was in high school was when Trojan Condoms was doing all those commercials all the
Trojan
time.
Man and everything, yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I can use that and just say I played it off with my high school and put my 2 numbers behind it. Boom, Trojan Man 24x48.
Yeah.
And then when I started doing like TikTok and some of the other things, I was like, you know what? Love Panda kind of just works. It's unique. Not a lot of people.
And it's simple.
Yeah, just like Love Panda. Boom. Oh, okay, I know that person.
What's funny because you brought up the high school thing. My mascot was a knight, and so like for the longest time I was like the knight of the round. I was the knight of the round table.
Yeah, I was Trojan Man.
Like I'm a huge history nerd. So I loved like medieval times and everything. So I was like knight of, and it was green and gold and everything. And up until about a couple of years ago, and I didn't start using it as like my main brand until like last year or so. Because my last name's very long, a long Polish name and everything. Friends of mine from college, we would play football every Sunday, go to one of the high school fields to play tackle football. And I ended up having a day where, everything just clicked. Like I was making plays left and right. And my one of my friends was like, dude, you're the Ganchais out here. And because I was a wrestling fan and because we play Sunday mornings, the night before I literally worked the show with Shane Douglas. And I introduced.
Oh, I'm gonna small world the shit out of you in a second.
Yeah, I ring announced the show with Shane Douglas, so I got to do the whole franchise gimmick and everything. And when he said the Ganj, I was like, yo. I was like, I can create a logo like just with green and gold instead of black and gold. I'm like, I can run this off of the franchise. And I'm like, and last year, that's where I started to run it. And people were like, how'd you come up with the name? And I tell the story and I'm like, I was like, and what's funny is about a year before I left the indie wrestling scene, I had worked another show with Shane Douglas, and I told him this story and he thought it was fantastic.
See, as we wind this down, when I was doing all the E-Feds, that was actually my character name, was the franchise. And then I created a broken Matt Hardy or Bray Wyatt version of myself too. And I wanted everything to be the opposite of itself. So instead of the franchise, I was the disenfranchised.
No, that's oh my god!
And I would always end my promos as with the franchises. I would always say franchise out, and then I'd walk off the screen.
Yeah.
And then as the disenfranchised, I would always end it as disenfranchised in, and then walk off screen. So it always just like everything was the ass opposite and the yin and the yang. So it's kind of ironic.
That's fantastic. But of course, thank you for joining me. Truly appreciate it. We will. I will let you know when the interview drops. It'll be on the next show. But thank you to Matt for joining us. This has been a special edition of the TTRP interview style. I'm Pat G, and we are out. Thank you for listening to the Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast today. We appreciate and thank you for your continued listenership. If you'd like what you hear, please follow us or subscribe to the podcast via gearnetwork.com/TTRP, where you can access the show via Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast services where your podcasts can be found. Please follow us as well on social media at Facebook.com/Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast and on Twitter at TBTR Podcast. We also ask you to please hit the subscribe button so you get the notification when the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at 6:05 Eastern Standard Time.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.